May 9th, 2024 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. This meeting and our hearing of the Conservation Commission will be held in person at the location of the second floor main hearing room at Town Hall. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technical problems interrupt the virtual broadcast. Unless otherwise required by law, members of the public with particular interest in any specific item should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. And the web link is on the agenda. All right, so first I think we ought to do a roll call. Commissioner Bill Boyven?
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Kent Moffett?
He's not here tonight.
Absent. Commissioner Indra Deb?
Here.
Okay. Rob Sheehan?
Here.
Sarah Walensky?
Here.
Ed Laturco?
Here.
And for the record, the chair, Larry Cohen, is present. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Did I miss anyone? No, I got Bill. Well, I get Bill. No, 1, 2. Indra, Rob, and Ed. Okay. All right. Got everyone down here. All right. Next is a public comment period. This is item 2. It's reserved for something that might not be on the agenda, but you would like to make a few comments about. Is there anyone online or in the room that would like to make comments under our public participation segment? Okay, the record should show no one is here for that item. Then we have approval of minutes, April 25th, 2024, and I assume they are not ready.
Not ready yet.
I did not see them. All right, so we'll skip down to item number 4. Notice is given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting during which time will act upon a request for determination of applicability filed by Alex Alvarez de Sotomayor for the proposed removal of 7 trees within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands. The application is located at 24 Gettick Road in Burlington. The commission will thereafter issue a determination. The application is being heard under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the State Wetlands Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. Anyone may obtain a copy of the application by writing to conservation@burlington.org. Someone here for that? The seat right there is yours. No, over here in front of the microphone, and you just, yeah, and just,
I should have told you that.
and you just simply pull the microphone a little bit closer, and you're all set, I think. Okay. All right. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So the way it works is you introduce yourself, you state where you live, and then you can summarize as much as or as little as you would like about what you're proposing to do.
Yes, sir.
It's yours.
My name is Alex Alvarez de Sotomayor. I'm a resident of Burlington at 24 Gettick Road, and I'm here because I have 7 pine trees in my yard that throughout the years have shown damage from carpenter ants, limb drop, lean, and there's been extensive damage to my property as well as my neighbors. So I believe in the process, so I reached out, filed all the applications, fees, and so forth, and was requesting to remove those trees under the fear of life safety for my family and my neighbors and so forth. So that's just to summarize. I don't think I really need to get into too much detail.
Very good, thank you. All right, John or Eileen, one of you want to make comments on this one?
Yep, sure. As Alex explained, he is pretty concerned about 7 large trees on his property. Several of us went out there yesterday. I was also out there a few weeks ago. He has had a number of tree companies come out and assess the trees and give him their opinions, and I think we were all in agreement that there's definitely visible damage. To some, we could see down here, there's, it was powdery where the insects had done damage inside. There were other trees that had holes. These two trees were sort of leaning apart. The tree that's right in front of his shed, it's dropping branches and it's dropping twigs. So I think that it is reasonable. His concerns are very reasonable, and I don't have any issue with the idea of him taking down these trees. They are certainly the back ones are in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. There's quite a lot of wetland on both sides of Geddick Road, which we've all been out there many times. There was some in the back right where, which had been delineated pretty recently. Then there's a sort of a raised area right behind his property, and then again there's more wetlands to the back left. So certainly the back trees are within the buffer, not 100% certain about the front ones, but I think it's fair that they would all come down, but I would suggest that they be replaced with at least a few native trees.
Okay, very good. So before we go around and see what others have to say, were you thinking of replacing trees anyway?
Absolutely, members of the board. That was my intention from the beginning. As I mentioned, when you visited my property yesterday, I had begun the process of getting estimates on what it would be to replace some of the trees, not all of them. I have one here dated the 2nd of this month from a local landscaper that I've been doing business with, and approximately for 3 trees, we're looking at $2,400, which is quite astronomical for what I thought it was. Being a homeowner, I've realized that whatever you think it is, it costs more. So this is step 1, and I'd like to get more quotes and with the input from the board on what it would be that I can install to not introduce an invasive species or so forth. But that is my intent from the beginning.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Ed, have any comments, please?
Nothing to add. Doing the right thing.
Okay, Sarah?
Just regarding the replacements, I was able to find a 6-foot white oak for $150 online. Fastgrowingtrees.com. Comes in a little pot in a box, unbelievably, and it's doing amazing. So there may be cheaper options out there if you're a DIY kind of person.
Yeah. And Indra?
So how big the tree would be? Because these trees are very big, which you are cutting.
The pine trees, sir? Is that what you're asking? Yes, they're 80 to 100 feet approximately in height.
No, those are the existing.
Correct.
But you would be replacing with how big?
I'm trying to replace, what I have here is 6 to 7 feet starting off, is to replace the
Is that
trees.
satisfactory to you?
That's actually pretty substantial, I think.
All right,
That was the initial, the first estimate, but that's,
thank you.
We can work on that part with him.
Okay, and Rob?
Yeah, it looks like those trees are not too safe, and I think they're in front of the fence, right? They're all.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they're all in
they're all in
front
front
of the fence, so he's got a fence sort of cutting off that back portion of the yard, which is definitely much more heavily treed, and there's portions of wetland back in there. So they're all in front of the fence, yes, all on the closer side to his house.
Okay, and Bill?
I think that the applicant has done an excellent job getting information, and he talked to multiple tree companies. They got clear evidence that these things are damaged by insects, and they've already damaged his fence and his shed. So I think it's quite clear that it is appropriate to take those trees down.
All right, thank you, Bill. I have nothing further to add. Everything's been said. So we have a draft decision.
Which essentially, if it's approved, will approve the tree cutting with a few standard conditions to just for protection of any area in back. So first we'll review it, then we'll vote it, and then we'll have you well on your way. Okay.
Sorry, I went back too far. Okay, we'll try that again. Okay, so, as described, applicant proposed to cut 7 trees within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. As described here, we know there's wetlands at the rear, across the entire width, closest at the rear left corner, and the commission is not making any finding as to the exact boundaries of the wetland resources. The closest trees were approximately 20 feet from the wetland. The application included an evaluation of the trees from a certified arborist. So this will be a decision only for work as described this evening and no other work. Applicant may proceed with 7 tree removals. Removal of any other trees will require additional approval from the commission or administrator and may require a further assessment by a certified arborist. For tree removals that are not feasible to do by hand, machinery such as bucket truck or crane should be located in the driveway or existing lawn areas, so just not too far back. I had initially suggested 5 trees in this decision, which we can talk about the numbers. Alex was hoping it would be more like 3. He is taking out 5 very substantial trees, so I personally would like to see a little bit more going back in there. Debris, sediment, lawn clippings shouldn't be dumped in the vegetated wetlands, so not dumped behind your fence. And you also shouldn't be using pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides within 100 feet of the wetlands or within the wetlands themselves. And the last part are just saying that we can go on the property just to, see the tree removal while it's in process, basically.
Okay, so, Bill, any comments on the draft decision?
Just one, I can understand the concern for the cost for replacement trees. I wouldn't have an objection if he put in the replacement trees over a 2-year period. I don't have to put them all in at once, put 3 in now and 3 next year or something like that, whatever we decide. I would not have a problem with the wording saying that.
Okay. Indra, anything further?
No.
Okay, Rob? And Sarah?
No.
And Ed?
Nothing new.
The only question I have is for Eileen. There's a fence in the back.
Yep.
The trees are in front, the wetlands are in back of the fence. So my question is, do we have any preference, or another way of asking, is the shade from whatever trees we plant needed to help protect the wetlands? In other words, do we need to say 3 trees closer to the fence, or where they should be planted at all?
I'm very happy for them to be quite close to the fence. They don't have to be particularly close to his house.
Right.
If that's what you mean?
Well, I would
They should
think
be
you would,
within the
I would
lawn
think you
area.
would want them closer to the fence to provide the
Right.
shade that they provide for the wetlands, which helps wetlands thrive. So
Right.
do you want to say like 3 trees somewhere along the fence? How does that sound?
That's more or less of what I was thinking of.
Okay.
And I just want to take in consideration also the root structure. I got to see where we can put them in, because as we know, the pine trees are shallow in the root area, which is why I was trying to emphasize on the 3.
I guess it didn't occur to me that, because I knew I got the impression he wanted to maybe keep them further away from his house.
Correct.
Right.
So
Which-
I don't really have an issue if they're halfway up.
Okay,
Either, just-
okay, I just thought in case you thought it needed to be in a certain place, I was
Oh.
asking.
Not really.
Okay, that's fine. All right. All right, so do you have any questions on what you've seen here so far?
No, just
It's
one
kind-
comment on the number of the trees where 5 was given. I just want the board to also consider that I have repair costs to the fence, to the shed house, to my roof, for the gutters, as well as the landscaping that I'm going to have to do for repair work once these large trees are going to be taken down. Obviously, they weigh tons.
All right, so
So
let me-
please take that into consideration,
Let
that
me
the
ask-
funding is
let
an
me-
issue.
Sure. Let me ask you, would if we went with 5, would you do 3 and then in a year consider 2 more? Would that work for you better?
Everything is possible. I can't give you an exact timetable, but, I mean, that is my intention. Like I said, my wife wants trees in there. I want trees in there. They provide a shade.
So
So,
you're saying when you can afford to put trees, you're going to put more trees in?
money is everything, right?
It seems that way these days.
I'm approaching roughly $12,000 right now.
Okay.
Could we say 3 trees and 2 or 3 shrubs?
Could do that.
Would that make you feel better? Because they would certainly be smaller.
That would save you some money.
3 and 3?
Yeah, I mean,
How would you?
I'm
feel
a
about that?
reasonable individual.
We try to be reasonable too.
I've already planted a tree on my own accord
Right,
a couple of years ago in front of the shed, small one of the pictures and
right,
show it. Yeah.
right. All right, so,
I think John has something to
John,
add.
you have a suggestion?
Probably sound like a broken record here, but it's not that easy to find native tree species. And it's probably very unlikely you're going to find 6 to 8 foot high native tree species. So, I mean, I think the commission should be fine with like a 3 to 5 foot tree or something like that if it's a native, which would cost considerably less than a 6 to 8 foot tree.
Right.
All right. So what you're saying is 3 to 5 foot trees is reasonable then? So it sounds like we're coming down to a reasonable cost here, I think, for you.
Yeah, you get the tree.
Okay? So why don't we, and if you have any problems with it, you can contact the office too.
All right.
Okay?
Excellent.
After the fact. All right, so why don't we say 5 native trees, understood to be 3 to 5 feet, and if you end up with any problems, contact the office, and they always resolve them for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Just adding in here, just what Bill said, unless you guys have an issue, their planting may be spread over the time span of the determination.
You can put that in, it's his option then, if you, okay, he will
Might be easier.
Thank you, just to give me
give you more
time.
flexibility.
It's also somewhat exciting to get to pick what you want,
Right, right,
to an extent.
right. Of course, the big expense we're talking here is taking down the darn trees.
Oh, that's true.
It's not exciting.
No.
It's unfortunate, but
Yes, okay. So if I had nothing further, could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 and the State Wetlands Protection Act for the project at 24 Geddick Road?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, I have to do a roll call since we have someone online. Bill?
Yes.
Okay, we have Indra,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Ed.
Yes.
Chair votes yes by a vote of 6-0-0. This decision's approved, and you're all set.
thank you, members of the board. I appreciate the time.
One
Respect the
question,
process.
are you new to Burlington?
2018,
2008?
April. I've been here since 2018, yes.
Well, it's nice to make your acquaintance.
Well, nice to make your acquaintance. Thank you all, appreciate it.
All right, have a good evening, sir. All right. All right. Next, we are on item number 5. Notices given the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing, during which time will take information related to a notice of intent filed by David P. Sassiola, I think, Senior, for the demolition of existing single-family dwelling and the proposed construction of a single-family dwelling at 73 Wynn Street. The proposed work would be within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands, and it's pursuant to the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14. The commission will be reviewing the information and may issue an order of conditions and a Burlington wetlands permit. The application may be viewed at the link on the conservation website. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thomas Murphy for the applicant. With me here at the table, Mr. Cacciola is down at the end, Dave Cacciola. Chris Mello, who's the engineer that Mr. Cacciola retained to help him with this project, is also here. And I'm going to turn this over to Chris in a moment, just but by way of background. Mr. Cacciola's family, back it up, the house we're talking about, it's at 73 Wynn Street. If one were coming down Wynn Street to get on to 128, 128 north, you'd go right, this house is like right on the corner of where the off-ramp is, and right there. It's kind of an older house. It's been there for quite a bit. Catch-alls have been renting it for a while, but the house is in need of replacement. So what they're looking to do is knock that house down and replace it with a new single-family. There are some wetlands at the back end of the property. We are within the 100-foot buffer with some of the work, and so we're here for a notice of intent and presumably some sort of order of conditions as part of that project. So that's the background, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to let Chris just explain a little bit from an engineering standpoint as to what the what needs to be done and answer any questions the board might have.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Chris Mello from Eastern Land Survey. We prepared the plans that accompany the notice of intent for this project. And as you can see up on the board, we have had the wetland resource area delineated by Basbane wetland consultant Leah Basbane. And on that plan, the existing conditions plan, we show the buffer zones of 20-foot, 40-foot, and 100-foot concentric to the resource area. As you can see, the 100-foot line is the furthest one out, and it goes through the existing house, complex, family room, garage, deck, and driveway. And that's why we're here tonight, because we propose to work in that buffer zone and remove that house. And as we come up to page 2, you can see there's our proposed construction. And again, you see the resource area in the upper area, the 20-foot and 40-foot buffer zones, and the 100-foot buffer zone. And we propose to remove the existing dwelling, garage, and family room deck complex, and the driveway that's there, all the paving, and the paving that goes out to the paper street in the rear, Winfield Avenue, that's on our locus, and replace that with a freestanding dwelling in the front of the property, approximately 30 feet back from the street line, and bring a driveway in where the existing curb cut is to the left-hand side that would service the existing dwelling, and also would go around the rear of the house to a proposed garage, which is freestanding on the right-hand side. All of those structures are outside of the 20 and 40-foot buffers. They are obviously inside the 100-foot, which is why we're here. From the standpoint of grading, we plan to remove everything. Pretty much the grading is very similar to what's there. It'll be obviously reshaped to accept the new structures. And we proposed 2 stormwater management areas, one in the front and one in the rear of the house, that are infiltration beds that would accept the water from the proposed construction. They're from the impervious areas. And we've submitted calculations with the notice of intent showing the various storms that we maintain the infiltration rate up to a 100-year storm. At that point, I think I'm going to stop, other than saying that the checkered line around the area is the erosion control. That's the limit of work, and that's where we propose to stop. I'd be happy to answer any questions any of the members of staff have.
All right, good. Thank you for that summary.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so John or Eileen, do you have some comments on this one?
I do have some comments. First, I want to ask Mr. Mello for a clarification. Did you say the pavement is being removed at the rear of the lot that goes back to Winfield Avenue?
That's correct.
Because that's not shown in the plan, and there's no erosion controls. So all the way up to the top of the plan where Winfield Avenue, that pavement is being removed?
And that's correct, and that's something that we've talked about and is not shown on the plans with erosion control on it.
Yeah.
And if the commission sees fit to allow that to come out where it is back there, we would put erosion controls, amend that plan, put it around it.
Yep.
And that would allow us to eliminate the access, and I call it access because it's blocked a lot because the abutters use it, but it is paved out to Windmere through there, and our project has no need for that, and we'd like to eliminate that paving. That was not anticipated initially, but Mr. Casciola and I have talked about it.
Okay.
We think that that would be a benefit to the resource area itself.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. So first I'll talk about the resource area. The wetland flags seemed fine. It's a fairly dry wetland on the edge where the flags are, and then it gets wetter and wetter as you go towards the rear of the lot. There is a drain pipe that goes through there. We did find that there was a structure about halfway back on the lot where the rim or the lid of the structure was off of it, and that needs to be addressed. Yeah, there's a photo of it. So it looks like kind of a dangerous situation for kids or whatever.
What is it, what is it exactly?
I'm not sure if it was an old catch basin or a manhole or...
Mr. Keeley, if I may, through the chair?
Yeah, please.
We found that that structure that is shown there, it shows up on my plan right next to, I believe, flag 4A. That you want to, you don't have to go back to it, but we do show that on the plan, and we believe that it is the terminus, or the beginning, if you will, of the pipe that comes out of the wetland, feeds through the property into a catch basin on Mr. Murray's property adjacent. At one time, I think there was a catch basin that was probably a reasonably good structure and has fallen into disrepair. It's off our property, and it's in the Paper Street, Winfield Ave.
Okay.
But we're not adverse to addressing it.
This catch basin here where the cursor is?
No, well, that's one end of it. Now, if you go diagonally up,
Yep.
About 4.
right about, well, yeah, right there. Flag 4A
Yep.
is right where this conglomeration of block and pipe.
You mean this pipe here? Sticking out?
Yeah, the middle, I believe it's the middle. Oh, no, the pipe's, we'll get to the pipe in a minute. I'm sure that's coming up. But I believe that pipe that's sticking out may come from this structure. I couldn't ascertain that. It's a little blocked. That's the term I wanted, blocked.
Eileen, would you go back to the plan?
Yep.
And let's take a moment to figure out what we're talking about here.
Yeah. If I could go up there.
Yeah, that would be even better.
Great, thank you. So the discussion we're having is the resource area that was flagged by Ms. Basbane is up here in the top of the site. And it has some standing water in it that I've seen. I'm sure it may dry out at times, but when I was there, it was standing water. There is, at this point, this flag is the structure, the picture that you were showing, a bunch of blocks, maybe an old catch basin. And I do know that the pipe is coming out of that, and we believe it flows, because we've seen it, through the property into an existing catch basin adjacent to the property of Mr. Murray. We've ascertained that, we know where it goes and what it's doing. And when I said that we're not adverse to dealing with this, although it is off our property, it certainly impacts the property, and if we were able to obtain permission to reconstruct that structure, not pick it up, rebuild it, but possibly hand excavate around it, find the pipe, put a base, put some either stone or block, and possibly put that rim, and I think the rim is, the grade is there, the rim I didn't see. But we can get a rim and a grade.
Sir, is it functioning in some fashion now?
It does function.
And it
When the water comes to a certain level, it does come, and I believe it goes in that pipe, because this pipe flows.
I see.
And if we could go further, just before I sit down, the pipe that you did see for just a moment, it's a big aluminum pipe, it kind of comes out of the ground right about here, and it goes in the general direction that I'm pointing, but as you see the pit, it's sticking out of the water. I don't know how it got that way, but I felt it, and it's pretty solid. I don't think I'd want to walk on it, but it doesn't do anything. It just sticks 2 feet above the water level. Mr. Casciola has no idea how it got there. I'd asked him about it. We just, he doesn't live there, so. It doesn't look like it happened yesterday, I'll tell you that. So, as I said, that particular basin and the pipe, I think we could do something while we have a lot of machinery there and be working on it that might impact the wetlands in a good manner.
But it can't be removed.
It could be removed, sure. I'm not sure what it does.
That's my point.
Okay. I didn't want to, I don't know why it's there, but if you took it out and rebuilt that catch basin, we would probably do the best we could, because that would give the water, or the resource area, when it came to a certain level, that's probably what it was supposed to do, is go in that basin and then go through the pipe.
Okay, let's take a moment here. Bill, do you have any questions on this before we move off of this?
Do you want to continue? Oh, sorry.
Wait a minute, I got to unmute. I am bit confused on that pipe. So are you saying it drains from 4A out?
That's correct.
Okay,
It flows in an easterly direction from 4A, going towards Wind Street.
so it's more or less, if the wetland overfills, that it would control the level of the water.
I believe that's what it was in place for, and that's what it does. Even though the basin is not in good repair, the pipe is still there, and when the water gets to a certain point, it has the opportunity to go into that pipe.
I'll ask John or Eileen, is that something that's acceptable to have, to drain some of the water away from the wetland in times of heavy rain?
I mean, I think my recommendation with Larry's suggestion is maybe just remove that catch basin or close it off so that it doesn't function anymore.
Yeah, John, the only thing I'm concerned about is, will it cause water level rise that causes some flooding to somebody else?
Well, as I said, the edge of the wetland seems fairly dry right now, so I mean.
And it's been a fairly wet spring.
Yeah.
And it may not even be functional at this time anyways, it's hard to tell, looking at it.
Well, certainly the end of it isn't functioning, the aluminum pipe part of it that's sticking up out of the ground. I mean, originally that was probably lower, and water was probably supposed to flow into that and then through this.
Right.
But
So it may not be actually draining anything at this time.
just surface overflow that goes into that open hole.
Right.
But I don't think that it happens that often. Maybe
Very heavy rain.
Yeah, and my point is the hole may not even be open at this point. It might so filled or obstructed, you can't even tell.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can the board hear me? Hi. I've been listening, and I'm at 3 Windmere, and I've been listening intently to everything that you've been saying. I'm literally looking at the pipe that you're talking about right now. I think it's at the very, very corner of my property. I would be in favor of a solution that does help drain some of the water away. I've been at this location for 23 years.
Sir, could I ask you, at some point in this process, which is after we go through the initial review, then probably in a few minutes, I'm going to be calling for additional comments. So could I ask you to hold your comments so we're not going out of order? And when I call on people to make comments, it's a public hearing. You're entitled to make comments.
You'd probably want to state your name, where you live, and then you can go into what you're describing. Okay, does that sound good?
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you, sir. All right, so.
Okay, so, another question was the existing drawing, existing conditions shows some kind of a catch basin, and it is in the driveway now, to the left or the front of the house. Is that going to be maintained? Is that going to be in the final? I don't see it in the final drawing here. Is that still going to be in the driveway?
Through the chair, that catch basin is on the adjacent property and will be maintained and will not, we don't have any right to touch that, but it also, it plays into the entire drainage project. It works just fine, and we're going to leave it alone.
All right, I didn't grasp that it was on the adjacent property. Let me look at the drawing again.
That's right above the word Robert. Bill?
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Sorry?
I'm talking about right above the words existing driveway. There's a catch basin.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a small area drain, and that's going to be eliminated.
It'll be eliminated.
That does not show up in the proposed conditions. It's no longer necessary.
Okay.
My apologies. I misunderstood the question.
No problem.
Say, Bill, I think I cut John off, so I'd like to go back.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Did I? All set.
Oh, I wasn't done with all my comments. I got done with the comments about the basin for that.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to your comments so we could go through everything.
Before we started commenting too much more. So if you hold off just a minute, Bill, we'll go back to you.
Yes, definitely. We'll be back to Johnny. We're out of time, you know? we don't want to cut him off on his last couple
Do
of
you want the
meetings.
rest of my comments about the project overall?
Yes.
Okay.
So in addition to the structure we're talking about in the wetlands, there's a number of other foreign objects in the wetlands. There's a trailer, there's a boat, there's a lot of trash and debris that needs to be cleaned up. So, I mean, I think you're going to have to authorize some equipment in the wetlands to clean up the basin thing and also some of the other stuff. It actually looks like maybe former residents used it as a dump or something. There's a lot of old glass and cans and stuff like that back there that need to be cleaned up.
Clean it up. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, I know.
But as far as the project design itself, the plans show test pits as, I think, that means proposed test pits. They have not taken place yet, correct?
That's correct. We did a test pit on the adjacent property, and we've used that so far, and we didn't really want to, I need a test pit under the house eventually for groundwater for building permit, and we thought we'd get them all then.
Okay.
It was pretty high next door, wasn't it? At
No, it wasn't
49?
actually. It was, well, the high is a matter of opinion. I thought it might be right under the paving, and it was down, I have the results, but it was down a good 4 feet, maybe 5.
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty sure it was 49, I just checked it.
I did not expect that.
Okay, John, keep going.
And the only other issue is, so as you can see from the plan, there's a lot of driveway on this proposed lot. So the driveway starts on the left-hand side, goes around basically the entire rear lot line, and then comes up to a garage. And I think the purpose of that is obviously they don't want to put the driveway directly into the garage from Wind Street because of the proximity to the ramp for safety reasons. So they want to push the driveway as far away from the highway ramp as possible. But I'm just wondering if it's possible for the house to move to the left and the garage to go on the other side to reduce pavement. And then, if not, I'm just curious how the runoff from the driveway is being handled.
You said move the house to the left? Was that?
Well, the
To the
garage.
right, I'm sorry, the house to the right and the garage on the left-hand side.
Well, if we move the house to the right, where obviously we're trying to get everything as far away from the highway, the driveway and the house itself, and that's why we're coming around the back. The runoff, basically, we're taking everything we can from the roofs into the infiltration. As you can see, the grading pitches away from there and will go out into the back and dissipate. But I don't have a real good answer other than a different, I'm not sure I have another better answer. I think we've done as best we can trying to get rid of the house, put a new house in the right spot, and give Mr. Casciola what he needs.
And will the driveway be crowned, or?
The driveway will be pitched away from the house, yes, no crown. All the driveway, basically, all of that pitches to the existing catch basin as it currently does.
On the left-hand side?
On the left-hand side, right.
Okay, and on the right, on the rear, it just goes towards the wetland?
It does, but it comes a little bit back towards the catch basin also.
I guess that's it for now.
What's the
Okay.
increase in impervious?
Thank you. All right, Bill, would you like to resume? Anything further?
I'll ask in a minute.
Bill?
I stepped away.
Increased impervious.
I think he may not be there. Let's go to Ed. Ed?
I can't think of anything
Wow,
else to add
proposed
to it.
impervious, 760.
Sorry, I had myself muted, I'm sorry.
All right, so should we give Bill one more chance?
I'm out of practice on being online, you know. I see on the drawing that you are planning to cut 3 pine trees. Is that the only tree cutting planned?
Yes.
Okay.
There's some scrub growth to the right of the existing house.
Yeah.
There's nothing of any consequence there. Those are the only specimen trees in the entire open area.
I thought there was a bigger tree behind the house, but maybe I'm wrong.
You talking about the hickory tree?
Yeah, there's a hickory there, yeah. What was it, shagbark hickory?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I believe that the other trees are on the outside of the erosion control. I think
Okay.
the 3 times were the only thing inside it and the only thing of any consequence.
And you're not cutting outside of that erosion control?
That's correct.
Okay.
No reason.
The other comment I have, and it may be a typo, at the bottom of your proposed dwelling drawing, it says proposed increase in it says proposed impervious coverage is 7655.
Yes.
But in your narrative, it says the impervious coverage will decrease from 5040 to 3650 for a reduction of 1360. It's completely contradictory to what you're showing there.
It certainly is. And I'm
So
looking at the cover page of my report, pretty much mirrors the note that's there, that the existing is 5,000 change and the proposed is 76.
I know it's bigger. So I'm going to go with the plan and apologize and fire the engineer.
Well, so actually,
Yeah, that's, I don't know
Like
where that
one
comes from.
digit, you know? But it's under the project narrative, so I just wanted to make
So
sure
what
that.
needs to be changed, sir?
Actually, nothing.
We're going to go walk over there at 7:30. You do not have to come.
But the plan, the cover page,
Company and the information on the plan is correct. There's a narrative.
Okay, got it.
That might have gotten.
but now you're proposing to remove the pavement at the rear beyond the existing.
That's correct.
So that needs to be calculated in as well.
Well, that's, I don't think, that certainly can be done, but I think the removal of additional paving doesn't affect any of the stormwater.
No.
Because it's a reduction, and all it would do is show that we might be getting closer to a marriage. But I mean, I can do that. I don't think that's germane necessarily to where we're headed with the entire
In
project.
terms of wetlands, we don't want.
Yes, oh no, we want to take it out. We want to take it out.
Okay, does anything need to be done, John, in this regard?
So we just need a new table of the proposed impervious versus the existing.
Okay.
And if I'm going to do that, I'd also like to alter the limit of work and the erosion control.
Yeah.
And we'd be happy to do that subsequent to any action the board may take.
Okay,
Okay, I'm done.
all right, you are done. Okay. Sarah?
Just 2 comments. I'm just struggling to understand why the driveway does the thing that John pointed out, why it goes all the way around. It seems to me if you change the aspect ratio of the house, maybe to be portrait instead of landscape, there would be room for the 2 side by side. Wouldn't that be a better use of land? Just one random, that's one comment. Second is there was a structure in the backyard that I found that I could not identify. It looked like a concrete donut with some sort of a hole under it. I wondered if it was a well. It's not mentioned anywhere on the existing plan.
I'm kind of thinking it's a fire pit. I thought initially it was something too, and my guys poked around and.
Put a stick down and couldn't find the bottom.
Yeah. We've asked. It doesn't seem to be connected to anything. It's certainly not anything to do with sanitary.
That's key.
Well, it might have been at one time, but we don't have a lot of historical real good. So we know that we have sewer, and I know what you're talking about, and I don't know either.
So what do you want to call it, a concrete donut?
Concrete donut.
Yeah, I like fire pit.
All right.
Oh, that thing.
Okay, Rob?
Yeah, it's sort of the same, similar comments about the circular driveway, but I think removing the pavement in the back, and then I think there's some small cuts along the left side too. I think those would be beneficial. Is the back driveway one lane?
Yes, it's wide enough for one vehicle.
Narrow.
It's not meant to be two-car driveway. It's access to the garage.
Okay.
We're hoping that the people that live there will be good enough that they won't get in their own way.
Okay, Indra?
So what did you say the impervious area, is it increasing, the impervious area?
Yes.
How much it is increasing?
Well, the chart that's on the front there, says we currently have 5,040 of impervious. We're going to 7,655, and that's the increase.
About 2,000 square feet.
I think it's 2,615, yes.
And what are you doing with the roof runoff?
All of the water, the roof, both roofs will go into the infiltration chambers, one in the front of the house, one in the rear.
Okay. And did you do the test pits? What you said?
No, we've done a test pit on the adjacent lot because it's vacant, and I'm working on that also.
Oh, you're working on it.
And the test pits I want to do, one of them is actually under the existing house, and one would be behind it. And we had the machine there, and I elected not to go in and do them.
Shouldn't you do one test pit at the location where you are putting the infiltration system?
Oh, we're going to do one on each one of them.
Okay.
And I feel, I'm hoping that the soil is consistent. It's only about 70-foot difference. I mean, I know 70 feet can bring you from ledge to groundwater to peat. Just looking around, I'm hoping it's consistent. If it's not consistent, we'll be back. I mean, that's the nature of...
Because, you know, we we require 2 feet difference between...
Yes, yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, and as I said to Eileen, the test pit that we did was a very good test pit.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple of things. To be clear, is that hickory tree being removed or not touched?
I believe the hickory tree is, I don't have it located in this plan. I've seen a big tree, I don't know, a hickory from a walnut. I believe it's outside of the proposed limit of work / erosion control.
If it is, you need to make sure it's located so it can be noted as being saved, otherwise...
I will look into that and get back to you, but if it was inside the area to be the limit of work, we would have shown it.
Okay.
But there's a lot of trees outside the limit of the work.
That's probably the one tree that's kind of like in the...
Yeah, but I mean, we located the 3 pines because we knew it. If the hickory was going, we would have shown it.
Right, okay.
I don't have a personal knowledge that I can tell you absolute, but I'm pretty good that if it was there, I wouldn't have had a problem showing it to be taken down if it needed to be.
Okay, I think we need for you to, I'd like to request you come up with some kind of a plan to remove, if debris is going to require a machine and we're going to authorize it, I think we need you to just think about exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and so forth a little bit, so that we have some idea of if we're going to authorize machinery to remove.
Can I ask Mr. Keeley a couple of questions about that?
You certainly can.
Don, I mean, there's a boat that's got to go, and there's a rusted-out trailer, and those are the only 2 big items. And I think that essentially you grab them with a backhoe and just, or even a rope and pull them out. I didn't see anything else in there that really needs a machine unless you found a pile or something I didn't. Do we think that we could do that all with hand digging, or at best a bobcat? I don't see an excavator going in there. I think that'd be
No, probably
the wrong
Bobcat.
thing.
I don't know how deep the trash is. I mean,
Do we think we could take it to the surface and just lumen, I mean, I don't want to dig forever in there. That could be a dump.
yeah.
But we take out the surface stuff and just lumen seed over it and put a
Yeah.
conservation mix and be done with it?
Right, that would be fine.
Okay.
I mean, right now, it's just covered with invasive knotweed.
Right, we take the knotweed out, take out the boat, take that out. I really don't want to come up with a construction sequencing that we're bringing in a track machine and getting in there. I think we can clean this up fairly nicely during construction without making a demo project out of it.
Right, you don't want, especially if it's a deep trash.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we take out the boat and the trailer, take out the stuff that's obvious, car parts or whatever, and
Stuff on the surface.
stuff on the surface, and pull it back and grade it, take out what needs to be, and then just put some loom over it and throw a conservation mix on it and be done.
Could we get a statement when you respond back to us with
Oh,
stuff?
sure, I can give you a narrative to that effect.
narrative
I
to
just
that?
I don't want to bring a machine in there.
I think the commission would probably agree,
Okay, thank you.
if possible. We don't want to put a machine in there.
Yeah, they can do it with that, yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's see if there's anybody, if there's anyone who is either in a butter or has an interest in the project, you can speak? Is there anybody on, let's start with online. And please, you have to state your name for the record and where you live, and then you may start speaking. I don't hear anybody.
There's no hands raised.
Is he still there?
You can raise your hand on the computer. Or,
I am not on the computer, but I am calling in via phone. I couldn't get the WebEx to work.
Okay, that's fine. Why don't we state your name, please?
Hi, my name is Ken Tango, and I live at 3 Windmere Avenue. So I abut this property sort of at a diagonal level.
All right, okay, so you please make your comments.
Sure. So the only comment that I wanted to make was just with regard to the wetlands. They're in my backyard, and according to the property lines, some of it seems to be my property, but I've never gone back there. I just wanted to make a comment about that pipe that you were talking about, that drainage pipe. I assume it's a drainage pipe. I mean, I've seen it there for years. I've never known what it did. I suspect that it is on our property. So if you could take a second look at those property lines, that's fine. We just want to make sure that we're not doing anything that we shouldn't. I would be all for a solution that either removes that pipe as long as a new drainage system might be put in place. I can tell you, after living here for 23 years, when we do have heavy rain, that wetlands does flood rather significantly to the point where it extends into my backyard, where my backyard grass is very, very soggy. So if there is a new drainage solution that can be engineered for those wetlands, that would be terrific. I'd be all for that solution.
Okay, so, sir, can we say you folks will look into it?
Back to us with some thoughts on it.
Actually, I think the thought we had is what we discussed. We would take the end of that pipe where there was a catch basin that's kind of falling apart, and we would rebuild that because it sits at an elevation that is lower, so that when that water body does build up, it has an orifice to get out. And we would take that aluminum pipe that's just out there in nowhere land and take that out. If that pipe was functioning, that aluminum pipe, it might drain that resource area, which isn't what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is maintain it. And
Where does the catch basin connect to? If you take the
catch
pipe-
basin at the top corner of the, I'm going to get up again. It's easier.
Where that?
So this catch basin down here
Yep.
that we talked about,
Yep.
that essentially, all this property runs into that basin. This area up here that has an invert of 12176 is the end of that pipe. And the picture that you see with stuff around it, I believe at one time was a structure. And the aluminum pipe just sticks up in the air and goes across the paper street and possibly onto that gentleman's.
So you're just talking about removing the pipe that's up in the air,
Just take that pipe out.
not the pipe that drains from the thing? Okay.
You can't take that pipe out.
That's what I was trying to get
But
at.
what I want to do, and I'd like permission to do it, because it's really out of our project, is that we'd like to take that and make that structure functional again, so that that sits there, and when this gentleman's resource area behind his house and everything else, when it does build up, it has a place to go.
All right, so Mr. Tango, how does that sound to you? What's your reaction?
That sounds great. Hey, as long as
If there is a solution for the water to drain away so it doesn't flood the area and flood my yard so much, I would be in favor of that.
And you would keep, when you rebuild it, I assume you would keep it at the same elevation that it's at? Keep it at the current ground elevation. Right. John and Eileen, are you?
Where's it going to? I'm still not clear on where it's going to.
It's going from here
Yeah?
to there.
So,
I've had it well open, I can see the flow.
right, but if there was an overflow, then it's going to overflow onto the property that you're proposing to build? That doesn't make sense to me.
No, if this water body,
Yep.
resource area, got to a certain elevation that this was reset at, the water would go in this pipe.
Yep.
It would then flow down here,
Right?
and then it would flow out to Windmere.
That pipe goes out to Woodbury. We've excavated it. We did test it every 15 feet across Mr. Murray's lot and found the pipe, and that's where it goes. And it functions, you know, relatively well. For a pipe that probably has some sediment in it, but
At Windmere to what? To,
sorry, I lose it. I lose it out there on Windmere.
okay.
If you go to the other side of Windmere, it's lower, and water goes downhill usually. I think it goes in that direction, but I know it definitely goes across that property. We ascertained that because I needed to know where that pipe was.
So Eileen and John, does this sound reasonable? Or you want to think about it?
I mean, it sounds fine to me. The water's going in there now, unfortunately, because it's open without any grate or cover on it. It's an unsafe situation. It's basically just fixing it so that some kid doesn't fall in it, essentially.
What's that?
Yeah, it seems fine. But we're going way beyond the narrative that was submitted with the notice of intent, so I would suggest that we need a revised narrative for this project. The project was filed as a buffer zone project, and now we're working in resource areas, so we really need to get a revised narrative.
Yeah, this is why the notice of intent is to work on the lot. And now we're here, we're offering offsite stuff, willing to do that.
Yeah.
And if we could just revise the narrative and show that, we're fine to do it. I don't want to get into a work on the resource area. Does seem a bit odd that we have a catch basin and a pipe draining a wetland at a certain point.
Right, well,
We normally don't do
Right.
that.
well, I think historically that was not that uncommon, and this is not a town drainage system. There's no easements, the town doesn't maintain it, the town doesn't even have records of it, I believe. I don't even think it was shown on the subdivision.
I mean, so the thing is, if we blocked it up and then the neighbors experienced increased flooding, that would not be a good situation.
Right, I mean, you should probably try to maintain the status quo at this point.
Right.
I have a comment. Larry, this is Bill. I have a comment.
Sure, please.
I'm just looking at the elevation of the end of that pipe. It says 120, 176. That's 3 feet below the wetland flags. That's pretty low. That's going to drain that whole thing, wouldn't it, if it was cleared out and flowing freely?
So the chair, please.
That's the invert of the current pipe. The catch basin is kind of falling around. I would suggest that we put that back together. The rim is going to be
More around 124, which is what the wetland flag is there, possibly.
Yeah.
And the water out there now is at 123.5. It's meant to maintain it, excuse me.
Not drain it. If we're going to drain it.
Yeah. I'm just concerned.
Working, you probably wouldn't.
Okay. I was just concerned that the rim might be 121, and that would clearly do a serious
That's the invert of the pipe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that has a comment? Okay, I have one more question. A lot of the front of the wetland, the line was done.
Has a lot of invasive knotweed. So the question is, I'm asking to the staff, do we want to ask for some effort at removal, or it's not easy to do either?
No, and it's not limited to just their property either. It's on the Commonwealth property, it's on the Paper Street property.
So it's pervasive.
Yeah, so it would probably just come back if you moved it on this parcel.
Okay, all right, okay, just thought I'd ask.
Larry, can I ask a question, please?
Sure, please do.
I'm wondering, that big driveway going back around to the garage, is there a possibility that could be something like grasscrete or a ribbon driveway or something like that, just to reduce the amount of impervious?
Allow me
Okay.
a moment.
Pardon?
Allow me a moment.
Oh, okay.
You want to take the paving out of
Well,
that?
you don't
crushed
have
on
to.
there? Yeah.
We don't have to.
We've had our moment.
Think about it.
No, we don't have to any longer. We've just negotiated.
You can take 2 moments.
No, well, the 2 moments will give us, we'll take the solid bituminous paving out and we'll put crushed stone.
Okay,
Gravel driveway.
that sounds good. Okay. Okay, so let's go over a couple of things. It sounds like we need a revised narrative. and we need a few changes to the plan to indicate everything that we've talked about. Okay? And I guess we need to show that concrete donut that Sarah mentioned.
No, that's junk.
It's junk, but I mean, we should say it's being removed or something in the narrative.
I don't know what it is. I'm not sure we actually located it, but it's just sitting in there. It's probably, I want to say, let me just look at the other plan.
Well, we don't have to solve it now, but we need to, we can't really leave it open, can we?
Oh, no, that's going to be gone.
What do you want to do with it?
What?
You want to remove it? I should have just said yes. I'm sorry. I got caught up in the moment.
Okay, that's all right.
I think you can see it on Google Maps.
And you'll look at the hickory tree to see if it's in the limit of work,
Sure.
you said, and
Be good firewood.
I'm going to cut it down before I put it on the plan.
and your driveway topography will show the pitch from the house.
It does that now.
Does that? Okay.
Does that
All
now,
right.
and we will take the portion of the driveway from the back of the house to the proposed garage, and we will make that.
And the test pits, you'll have someone that's qualified.
We'll have a soil evaluator, licensed soil
Okay, and look at
evaluator.
estimated seasonally high groundwater, and you'll have your 2 feet under the infiltration.
Right. And I need that for the house now. That's the building inspector. I've got to set the ground floor, the cellar floor 1 foot above the estimated high groundwater table. So we're doing a soil test on every new house.
And your pavement removal will be shown on the plan, is that?
From the back of the driveway of the proposed house to the
Right.
garage.
Okay. And do you need to, folks need to take another look at the trash and stuff like that before we settle on, or we're all?
No.
We're good with what we talked about?
I'm comfortable with that we can do that without a track excavator or any large machine.
Okay,
The only reason I'm even talking about the backhoe is something might be heavy.
right,
Otherwise, we take it all out by hand.
got it. Okay, I'm good. So I think we have a good
I got one
summary.
more thing, Larry.
Yes.
This is Bill.
I think there should be some kind of, in the finished product, some kind of demarcation at the 20-foot no disturb fence, or at least some kind of demarcation to prevent mowing and intrusion.
That is to the bar.
All right, we certainly can put that in the order. Okay, anything else?
I don't care.
Well, they're conferring again.
Did you folks have another moment?
No, we've had plenty of moments, thank you. No, just more of a question of where we go from here. Is this, do you want us to revisit at a future meeting? or
Revisit what?
Come back to see the commission as opposed to issuing an order and incorporating?
Well, are you asking whether we will close at the next meeting? At this meeting?
Yeah.
I don't think we have a draft here.
I'm just aligning my calendar, so.
I don't think we have a draft, but I let me ask, do you see any reason why we can't close at the next meeting?
If they provide everything that we talked about this evening, then I think that would probably be okay. Yeah.
Okay, and we have to get it in by a certain number of days ahead of time?
Forthwith.
So,
Eileen will give me a date.
excuse me?
If you give me a date you
Sorry,
need
do
it.
you mean for the next meeting?
No, for the, to resubmit.
Oh, well, if you can get it to us a few
ASAP.
days before.
Okay, so next week.
When's the next
If you
meeting?
can do it next week.
Yeah,
that would
next
be
week. I
great.
want to give you plenty of.
May 23rd.
May 23rd.
Can you get it in a week?
It's an eternity. Have it done next week.
An eternity.
All right.
Okay.
So if there's nothing further, is there anything further? I'd like to entertain a motion to continue the hearing for 73 Wynn Street. Second?
To May 23rd.
And continue to May 23rd. There's the motion. All right, so Bill, how do you vote? You're muted, Bill.
Yes.
Okay. Indra, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rob? Yes. Sarah? Ed? And the chair votes yes. Okay. The hearing for 73 Wynn Street's continued to our meeting of May 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good evening. Okay. Did you take care of this? Yeah. Okay, next, we have a continued public hearing for 155 Middlesex Turnpike. It's site work associated with a vertical expansion of the building and some work around it. Good evening again. Okay, so would you like to say anything before we move? I didn't hear too many issues that had to be resolved. Did you want to say anything first?
Thank you. So good evening, Mr. Chair and members, John and Eileen. Trina Murphy with 155 Middlesex. Here with me is Brian Goudreau from Hancock Associates, our engineering partner on the project. So at the last hearing, we talked through all of the details of our redevelopment project for 155 Middlesex, adding 3 stories to the building. We talked about the restoration area that we have for the wetlands, and in that meeting there were some questions about the town easement in the front, the detention basin that carries stormwater from Middlesex into the detention basin and back out, and how that intersected with our own stormwater management. So John and Eileen, along with Tom and Gage from Town of Burlington Engineering, we had a meeting on site to discuss the details of the detention basin and how it all functioned. I believe coming out of that meeting, there's better understanding. John and Eileen, of course, can confirm how it functions and how it's managed, responsibility, and some, I think, minor maintenance work that they'd like to see done, which will be managed by the town. Beyond that, we believe that we've satisfied all the requirements and that we've answered all the questions, but we're here again tonight to help answer any further questions.
All right, the only thing I remember for the benefit of the commission was some adjustments potentially for the detention basin, either get cleaned up or something of that nature. John or Eileen?
Right, so it turns out the basin is actually the responsibility of the town of Burlington. So when Middlesex Turnpike was widened in the late 90s as part of Nordblom's redevelopment of Northwest Park, Nordblom owned this property at that time. So when the road was widened, Nordblom built a detention basin on the road for the town, basically, to take stormwater runoff from Middlesex Turnpike, from the additional width and lanes of Middlesex Turnpike, and granted the town an easement to maintain it. So it's the town's responsibility. There's a storm scepter also on the lot, which is also the responsibility of the town to maintain. Apparently the town had that storm scepter in its database and has cleaned it recently, but I don't think anybody in the engineering department or DPW was fully aware that the basin was also the town's responsibility, so now they are. And hopefully that will be put on their list of BMPs to regularly maintain. It definitely, well, I shouldn't say definitely, in my opinion, there seems to be a sediment buildup at the outfall of the town outlet, which is the larger outlet on the south side of the basin. But that issue is really separate from this project at this point. The basin is not the responsibility of the proponents or the owners of the property. So working with the towns and DPW and engineering, we'll deal with the basin separately.
Okay, so there's nothing further these folks have to do with that?
Correct.
That's what you're saying?
Yep.
Is there any other issues associated with the project before we move ahead?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. So does anyone on the commission have anything further on 155 Middlesex?
Well, actually, I should. So we did get a slightly amended plan, and it went up into viewpoint and was submitted to the planning board with a stone dust drive, a walkway from the front of the building out to the right front of the building, from the right front of the building out to Middlesex Turnpike. We do have a copy of that pedestrian access plan. We've listed it in our list of plan references. It's actually been added to the other plans for the planning board, but I don't really think we need to necessarily amend those other plans. It's outside the buffer zone. We do have a pedestrian access plan listed in the reference documents, so I think that's good enough.
Okay, so nothing further needs to be done?
Correct.
All right, I guess the same question. Do any of the commissioners have any comments on 155 Middlesex Turnpike. Anything new? All right, is there anyone in the audience for 155 Middlesex Turnpike, either online or in the room? Okay, the answer looks like it's no. All right, so we have some draft documents to review. So we'll review them, then have motions to close the hearing, a motion to approve the documents, and move forward from there.
Yep.
Okay, so Eileen or John, would you please do the honors?
It's probably just easier for me to do it since I have control here. So as we've all heard, the project consists of the addition of 3 stories to an existing 2-story commercial structure with a lot of other descriptions there that we've already gone through, including construction access. So it was really only the construction access for adding the stories, straightening pavement edges, the dumpster pad and patio removal were located within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. Really all of the rest of the structural work was outside that. Approximately 6,000 square feet of the buffer zone will be restored by removing lawn, grass, and patio, reseeding with native pollinator mix and planting 12 trees and 47 native shrubs. And impervious cover will be decreased slightly by approximately 400 square feet. Stormwater will continue to drain to 2 existing catch basins, then to an existing stormwater basin. The catch basins were cleaned prior to permitting and hoods would be added. We referenced all of the plans here. John mentioned the new pedestrian access plan, which we had added in here. Under wetland values, we're explaining that, again, that some of the proposed work will be within the 100-foot buffer, and the patio to be removed was approximately 18 feet from the wetland. The dumpster pad will be approximately 30 feet from the wetland, but the main building envelope is outside the BVW. The planting area is all within the 50-foot buffer. The parcel also lies within riverfront area and bordering land subject to flooding, but the work area is outside of those resources. The Commission is not going to formally agree with the depicted locations of the riverine resource areas, but generally agrees with the wetland delineation. Under stormwater management, they're making very few changes. It's a redevelopment project. There's a slight decrease in impervious area, so there was no real need to add a lot. They're adding the hoods to the catch basins, and the town is going to be responsible for the management of that basin. We are proposing a bond of $5,000 in this case, and those numbers are just highlighted because in case we add something to the order, so that we keep track of the numbers. Okay, then the order, it's going to start by when it opens, it's going to start by listing, okay, doesn't want to open. It's order. It's going to start by listing all of the plans that we already talked about. The first several conditions are absolutely standard, and Trina and it's Brian, did receive them earlier, so I don't think there's going to be any surprises. The order is permitting work within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. No work within any resource area is being permitted by this decision. If we jump down under pre-construction conditions, that just describes that you have to install your erosion control, notify us, and we will meet you on site a few days before your work starts to go over the order, look at your limit of work, and to observe that your DEP number is there, and at this point you must have the order and bylaw must be recorded. Erosion controls shall be installed as shown on the reference plan. I've now jumped down to the erosion control conditions. Materials shall not be stockpiled on the site within 50 feet of the wetlands or stream. No dewatering on this site unless we receive a dewatering plan. Keep the area clean, sweep the roads at the end of the day if you need to, and put silt sacks and catch basin within 100 feet. No grading beyond what's shown on the approved plan shall be allowed without going through the commission again. The pollution control conditions are all absolutely standard. Keep the area clean, don't let anything fall in the wetlands. Don't use pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides within 100 feet of the wetlands. We're asking for weekly inspection reports, which can be done on a form that either we provide or you provide yourselves. And runoff from the rooftop parking areas and roadways shall be managed using the catch basin and the existing infiltration basin. There is an operation and maintenance plan which you need to adhere to, and I know that you just recently gave me your catch basin cleanings, so every time you do that, just send us a copy. You should record the O&M plan at the Registry of Deeds. Then for buffer zone restoration, this is describing how you're going to be planting 12 native trees and 47 native shrubs as specified in the approved plan. These planted areas shall not be returned to impervious surface, and these shall be monitored for 2 growing seasons, and anything that fails to survive shall be replaced. No invasive plant species shall be planted anywhere in Burlington. That's a lovely spider. And then the last part is just describing how you go about getting your certificate of occupancy and certificate of compliance.
All right, so do you have any questions on what you've heard? Most of these, if not all of them, are standard conditions for the most part.
Thank you. We're a real estate developer and builder, so we're very familiar.
You've seen this stuff before?
Many, many times. It's like an echo.
Okay, all
I
right.
understand, and thank you.
Obviously, if you have any issues, you contact the office and they will solve the issue for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I'm probably going to want to rewrite one of the findings. When I went through it, it's probably not that well written, but the commission is not approving the wetland delineation of any of the resource areas, and the reason for that is the resource areas are not on the property. They're approximated using aerial drones, and so.
That was just the river one.
Yeah, and it says.
But generally use it wet. Oh, wasn't that on the edge of the property?
No, it's off the property. Each flag tells the distance. It says how far the wetland
That's
is
what the
from
flag
that.
was saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm going to clarify that. So, but you're not formally approving the boundaries
Right.
since they're on somebody else's property.
So do you want me to just change that now, since
No,
while we're in
I'll
front of
do it
everybody? Okay.
Okay. All right, I think we understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so any comments from the commission? All right, then I guess we can move ahead. Could I have a motion to close the hearing on DEP file number 122-703?
So moved, Bill.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I vote yes by a vote of 600. The hearing for 155 Middlesex Turnpike is closed. Could I have a motion to adopt the findings under Burlington Bylaw, Article 14, as discussed for DEP file number 122-703?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Bill?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 600. The findings as discussed are approved, plus 155 Middlesex. Can I have a motion to approve the order of conditions for 155 Middlesex under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 and the State Wetlands Protection Act for DEP file number 122-703?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The order of conditions for 155 Middlesex Turnpike is approved by 600. Okay, can I have a motion to request the posting of performance surety in an amount of $5,000 under authority of Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-703?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, Bill.
Anyone have a comment? Anything further needed on this? Okay, so Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so the request to post $5,000 performance surety has been approved by a vote of 600 for 155 Middlesex. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. It was good to see you.
Same here.
Enjoy your stay in Burlington.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Good evening.
Just cut and paste it onto you.
Okay.
Oh, no, I just used your one, because I didn't make any change.
Okay, we're on item number 7. Next, we have a continued public hearing, notice of intent for 12 Sarah Street, Rakesh Goel. to construct a new single-family residence and restore wetland and buffer zone. It has DEP file number 122-704. Good evening.
Here with me tonight is the applicant, Rakesh, and also on Zoomed in remotely is Dan Pagani, design engineer.
Okay.
Okay, so the information I handed out is the latest and greatest revisions to the project.
Yes.
I'd like to go through them quickly.
Also, when you do that, could you explain the difference between, we received something dated May 2nd and something dated May 7th, and this is May 8th? Is that what I understood?
Oh, my gosh.
No, it's,
What?
we got a plan yesterday, but then Maureen provided a version of that plan just with the plantings, so that's really all the difference.
So that's the only difference?
She'll go through it.
Oh, okay. All right. 'Cause I was wondering, I was trying to figure out what has changed, and I was,
So the plan that you got today is the planting plan?
yep.
Okay. So to go through the revisions, the Caltech system out front, in front of the house, was originally designed to the northeasterly property line. The commission had asked us to shift that towards the driveway so it was more centered in front of the house. That has been done.
But what was that again? Could you repeat that, please?
The Caltech system in front of the house.
Yes.
It originally was closer to the northerly property line.
Right.
So the commission had requested if we could possibly shift that closer to the driveway just to provide some more area and space from the abutter. So we were able to do that.
Okay.
The overflow outlet from the infiltration center had originally gone down parallel to the property line. So it was discussed at the last meeting to shift that towards the middle of the property, towards the wetland. So again, just to try and reduce any water or possible impact to the neighbors. So we have provided that revision as well.
So the overflow pipe that's the pipe that's going to the middle of your yard now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
A post and rail fence has been added along the 20-foot no disturb zone. Plantings. We are proposing to restore the BVW. Trees are proposed 20 feet on center, shrubs 10 feet on center. So in the BVW, we're proposing 7 trees, 12 shrubs, and a wetland seed mix. Mr. Chairman, I called a number of nurseries trying to get a black willow. No black willows.
I actually thought that would be the case.
Unfortunately. But I did make the attempt to try and get the native black willow. I don't know why they don't carry them, but they don't carry them.
Got it. I understand.
Buffer zone plantings. So we're proposing to restore the 20-foot buffers, 20-foot no disturb, We're proposing 5 trees, 18 shrubs, as well as a conservation wildlife mix in this area as well. As part of this proposal, what I'd like to do is just extend the erosion controls around the back of the property, down the rear property line, because in the BVW, there was some stockpile of wood and branches and that type of material. I'd like that material to be removed, trucked off-site, stake the wetland flags, plant, apply the wetland seed mix. The temporary wetland disturbance is 1933 square feet. Again, that will be temporary to remove the material, plant, and essentially let it come back. I addressed the DEP comments. DEP had comments regarding reviewing aerial photographs and seeing several structures in the rear yard. That obviously was removed by the applicant prior to the NOI filing, which
I
was,
did not remove those. Those were removed by the previous owner, the structures.
okay, I stand.
What was this?
Those, they had a few sheds in the back. They were-
Right, okay, yeah. Okay,
The NOI form has been updated to include the proposed temporary BVW alteration to remove that material from the BVW, the wood and the debris, and to do the plantings as well. I know drainage was a concern, and I'm going to hand it over to Dan that can talk about the additional work he's done regarding infiltration and drainage.
Thank you, Maureen, for that. So just to go through briefly here, so previously we met the standards of installing a drainage system in the front of the property. I know at the last hearing, the commission requested that we expand that system within the front of the property. In looking at the standards, we become too close to the property line there. So it is my professional recommendation for the additional drainage facilities to be proposed in the rear of the property. We are proposing to double the size of the stormwater system based on what we originally proposed. And that's also in addition to some additional chambers that we had added based on some comments we had from the Town Conservation Department. So what we show here today is a very robust design, and I'm certainly pleased to show it.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay. All right, so why don't we, John and Eileen, do you have things that are either have not been taken care of or any comments you would like to make?
So I'm the one who's been sort of largely dealing with this so far. I think they keep incrementally making this better. I like Maureen's planting plan. I think what's the total? 12 trees and 30 shrubs. That is definitely a robust planting plan. One question I have about that is, how are you going to manage to plant if we're retaining some of the stumps?
I was thinking we wouldn't retain the stumps. You mean from the trees that were cut?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking of the woody debris on
Oh,
the
no,
side.
of the ones that were cut. I mean, you can move things, obviously, to get at.
Right, I mean, we could plant around the stumps.
Would you have room?
Yeah, we'll make the room. Maybe instead of some of the shrubs being 10 feet on center, maybe they'll be 5 feet to accommodate for a stump.
I haven't really had a chance to think too deeply about the details of either changes since we really only got these plans yesterday and today. But I think that Dan has definitely done what he could to fit a second system in the back. I like the way he's angled it so that he can reduce the grading as much as possible. It's sort of accommodated everybody that way. We're keeping the extent of the grading as close to the house as possible, and yet there's going to be more underground infiltration systems. And I think everybody's going to be happy with the fact that I want everybody to be reminded that the overflow is just an overflow. It's not going to have very much water a lot of the time, but it is definitely going towards the center
of the property. I don't have any other comments just at the moment because, as I said, we really just got this. But I know that Maureen did put a lot of work into trying to make sure she can actually find these plants.
Right.
For the.
And regarding the trees, these are the largest size native trees I was able to get. So.
How tall? I think I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. The oaks were fairly substantial.
Right. 10 to 12 feet. Those are at 12 to 13. Those are some big trees.
Yeah, I saw that. I was surprised you were able to get them even that tall when I saw that.
You have anything to add, or what was that?
I was just trying to see if they answered you. Did you ask them, did this all get submitted to DEP, all these revised
yeah.
changes and stuff?
So it didn't go out in the mail today, but it will go out to the mail tomorrow to be submitted.
Okay, you all set over here? All right, so let me go to the commissioners and see if they have any further comment. Indra, anything further?
Yeah, I requested if the roof runoff, the total roof runoff can be connected to the front. Did you do that?
I'm going to refer that to Dan.
Of course, do you mind just repeating that question? I'm sorry, I was having a hard time hearing you.
The roof runoff, where it is going? Is it going to the front of the house or the back?
Of course, yeah. So what we've done here with the increased drainage facilities is essentially split the house. And so the rear half would go to the rear system and the front half would go to the front system.
It couldn't do that, the total roof runoff to the front. Because the neighbors had a problem.
But the neighbor has a driveway at a low level, and he has a drain, I don't know where it goes.
But he's very concerned that water, if you put it all, I think if you put it all in the front, there's, if you split it, there's less chance because you get half the water already halfway down the back.
I know, I thought that was the concern, like, there's too much water in the back.
I think
that's what I thought.
Well, he didn't have a chamber in the rear before. He was just going to discharge that water just to the surface. Now he's added a second one to the rear, so the whole back of the property is going, the whole back of the roof is going to, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, back of the roof is going to the back chamber, front of the roof is going to the front, but whereas before only part of it was being captured in the chambers, and this way everything's going into the chambers.
To the chambers, and the neighbor is happy with that.
Well, I don't know if he's happy. All he's claiming is, he's just like they do in Congress, present. Okay. But I think it's better having half the roof water already halfway down his lot before it begins to get into the soil than if it's right by that driveway, which is the bottom of his driveway is a fairly low level, I think. Okay, so let's, okay, thank you, Indra. How about Rob?
Yeah, so I guess I have a little bit of a question about there's a wall on the right side of the property. Like I can see this as being like roughly 3 feet tall, and then it's described, I think, as a stepped landscape wall. So I was wondering, but then it also says that the top of the wall must be, I think, 6 inches above the final grade. I'm not sure if that's a minimum or if, like, it does look like there's quite a bit of a grade difference on the right side. So I was wondering if this wall is it sort of have like a retaining wall function, or is it something that?
I think it's to hold up the pool.
Yeah, so the wall on the side of the property is intended to retain the land so that we could push the elevation of the basement floor high enough to be above the estimated seasonal high groundwater table. So it's, essentially it's there to provide a flat elevation surface higher than what exists today.
So, is there, like, let's say there was like a very heavy rainstorm, is there a possibility of water flowing over the wall?
So currently we have the wall protruding an additional 6 inches just in case there is any surface runoff. Of course, that will be run into the drainage systems. And then we also have a backup French drain before it gets to the wall. But in the event it's able to get past those two individual systems, it would then be met with a 6-inch height that it would have to essentially rise over to come over the top of the wall. So essentially brings that water to the rear of the property, assuming that it gets to that point, if that helps answer your question.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if too, like, not like thinking about water and snow, if it's like, if it's sort of stepped, sort of like what the width of it is, and if it's sort of creates like a impervious flow versus just sort of trying to retain all the water, within the applicant property.
Of course, yeah. So that wall essentially is just retaining that land to provide us a higher elevation. And then we're going to extend the top of that wall higher so that any surface runoff that happens to want to flow in that direction won't be able to freely flow in that direction.
Okay. And is there anything like, I know it says the wall will be designed by others, but do you know if it's like timbers or stone or?
I could certainly double check with the applicant. My guess would be this would be essentially a stacked retaining wall, those sort of blocks that you see commonly that are about 8 to 12 inches long that are stacked.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rakesh.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that is with the blocks.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sarah?
My understanding was the reason there was originally not a catchment basin infiltration chamber in the back of the house was that the water table was too high back there. Could you explain why that's not a problem anymore?
Sure, of course. So what we've done, and I can zoom in a bit here on the plan, is we propose some additional grading from the rear of the pool wall here to elevate the land enough to get above that estimated seasonal high groundwater table and have sufficient clearance. The concern that we had adding additional drainage facilities to the front was that we weren't able to meet the standard of 10 feet minimum from the property line. And so I had some concerns there from a mounting perspective. So just trying to separate those two systems. And, you know, essentially the one that's shown in the rear, we've tried to limit that grading as much as possible because I know that's a concern to the commission. So we're able to angle that system to try and limit that as much as possible.
Right.
And both the extra runoff from that one and from the one that's in the front of the property is both going to go through a pipe and wind up in the middle of the yard behind the pool? Is that the plan?
After the drainage facilities fill up to 100% of total volume, they will have an overflow that the overflow elevation is set to be higher than the systems themselves. So in order for water to flow out the overflow pipe, essentially it has to fully fill the mitigation systems. And so that's the current design, yes.
Okay, that's all for me.
Okay, Ed?
Sarah's kind of triggered where I was going to go. What I'm looking at now is you've got the filtration system in the front of the house. You got one pipe coming down alongside the house. You got the filtration system in the back that's going to meet that same pipe. And it's going to exit through one pipe from all those 3 locations alongside the house, the front of the house, the back of the house, and exiting into that lower area of where the wetlands actually is. The question would be if it's for an overload thing and that pipe's going to be pretty busy, that water, as the neighbors would even conclude that they have had that water that is pitched behind all the homes rise a number of times. What stops anything from going left or right of this new construction that still hasn't changed anything for the neighbors on the lower side? Because it's coming in a flow on one side of the house, everything to the back side of the house. Where's that water going to go and what's it going to do to that drainage area behind all the homes, which has been another complaint?
Sure, of course. So I can go to the technical details here and try to draw on there the essentially the overflow pipe. So the top of the system is located here. The invert elevation for that overflow pipe will be something like this. So essentially those drainage facilities need to completely fill up, including the two foot of crushed stone that's shown on the bottom of the system, 16 inches of chambers, and also stone that's on the top as stone cover. Those all act as volume that those systems capture. And so essentially for water to come out that outlet pipe, it has to fully fill the drainage facilities in order to do so. That front of the property there, I can flip back to the other plan. Essentially, we're picking up the runoff from the driveway via French drains that flows into the drainage system. It also picks up the roof leaders from the front. Those all flow into the system. It will then have that overflow pipe that's at a higher elevation than the system elevation, and that also goes for the system in the rear. And we've proposed those elevations for the overflow to be higher than the existing drainage facilities or the proposed drainage facilities that are shown on the plan. So larger storms, you may see water coming out of that outlet pipe. We have proposed a stone pad there to limit any erosion or any concerns there, and also a concrete collar around that pipe just to retain it in its current location. And the intent is for this to be a bit of a depressed location, so that pipe isn't essentially just right there on grade, if that helps to answer your question.
Is that gonna really help where all of this ends up is on the lower end of the property? That's where all this drainage is going from a number of homes, including what we've learned, the homes that are behind these on another street. Is this going to add to that because it's all going to one location?
Sure, of course. That's a good question. So running the HydroCAD analysis, this reduces the volume based on which storm you look at. It reduces the total volume of stormwater by about 15 to 20%, which is definitely significant for this lot. You will still see flow coming out of that outlet pipe during larger storms, but we have reduced the volume of stormwater by 15 to 20% overall. And that also doesn't include the benefit of the pervious patio. We did not include that in the analysis. Pools that don't have a cover on them, of course, those retain water. And in the wintertime, they're generally filled with water below the piping elevation. So what they'll do is they'll drop it by 3 to 6 inches, blow out the pipes, and essentially that water retains there for the winter. But you have a freeboard of over a foot. So if there's a storm, essentially it has a place to go in that location. That's not accounted for in the model either, in addition to the French drain we proposed at the top of the wall. So those aren't currently in the drainage model and would have provided additional benefit. But this is over and above the original standards. So.
And if I might just add, that's another reason why we are proposing such a robust planting plan with a number of trees and shrubs because of the water issues. And once it's planted and it's established, that'll help aid in taking up the water.
So this, I bet I'm going to say the same thing as you. The property size is the same.
Going to be the same as it is now. So the same amount of rain will fall on the property. All that's actually changing is that they're increasing the impervious by about 1,600 square feet.
The stepping, I like the idea of that, but it didn't really change the height of the entire back property, right?
That is correct, yes.
So we still have basically a hill to stare at.
No, they have. Well, they have from what you're seeing now, if that's what you mean, Ed.
Right.
Rakesh will have to pull back some of the soil that's there right now because he did spread it to because we told him to reduce the hill. So yes, it has to be pulled back so that it meets what were the existing grades.
So
except for right behind the house.
Yeah, because right at the back of those back steps from the pool, it's at an elevation of 122, and the existing plan shows 122, 121-ish.
And that's just in that one location I was looking at, so that can't be carried all the way down to the back of the property the same way.
I thought it was tied in. It's the way.
That's what I can't quite see.
So currently we stop the grading just at the rear of the pool steps here. So right in this location, the grading stops. So the existing grading would remain in this rear section of the property.
Existing meaning
pre-existing
soil pile.
Pre-existing.
Right?
Pre-construction, correct.
Pre-construction.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Trees will help.
Okay. Yes, John.
I just want to ask, so Dan, you've said a couple times the storm text would overflow after a large storm. Do you have any idea what storm event these infiltrators will handle before there's an overflow?
I don't have it right in front of me. I believe there's overflow at 25-year. It may be slightly less than that, but we have reduced the total volume of storm water all the way up to the 100-year storm at 15 to 20% based on which storm you look at. So, but yes, you will absolutely see flow coming out of that pipe.
And the 25-year storm is what, 4 inches, 5 inches?
It's roughly 4 inches.
Yeah, 4 inches in 24 hours is a lot of rain.
Right.
That's a lot.
of rain. Yes.
Okay. All right. Bill, are you with us?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
All right, your turn.
I'm impressed with the amount of effort that's gone into this. The designers and the engineers here have come up with a plan that I think addresses about as well as could be done on this property to the concerns of the commission, and hopefully the concerns of the neighbors are alleviated as well. They've taken that overflow pipe and brought it into the middle of the yard. They're bringing the grade of the whole backyard down to the original grade. They're planting a ton of plants in there, which is very good. And, you know, a couple of things to keep in mind. People, you know, I can see neighbors looking at that drain pipe going down the left and dumping into the back. It's only an overflow pipe. It's only going to have water in it when there's more than 4 inches of rain. And in theory, once every 25 years, it'll have some overflow in it. And the overall flow going into the wetland is reduced by 15% from what it was before this project even started, based on the calculations by this professional engineer. So, you know, I think that is, to me, comforting, and that it is going to reduce the amount of water that has been experienced by the neighbors contributed by this property. So I'm happy with the plan as it shows. I'll be interested to see if the neighbors are as well.
Okay, just a couple of quick questions. Is the French drain?
Where does it terminate? Like goes along the wall?
And where does any water that's collected there, where does it terminate?
So that essentially just provides void space under the ground. Previously, we had proposed a drainage outlet for that, but I know there was concerns on that, so we've kept that underground. So that system will just act in its current location as essentially a separate drainage system.
I see. So that's just for extra drainage that goes through there.
Exactly. It's just an additional buffer. And then one thing I could add on the drainage outlet pipe, I don't commonly personally design these. A lot of different, folks feel different ways about them. The reason why we're proposing it on this lot is that if the systems were to be surcharged in one of those larger storms, essentially the drainage pipe fills up with water, and the water flowing off the roof cannot enter that system. And so what happens is it typically flows onto like a splash block that's on the ground, which would then have a tendency to flow in this direction. And so this is in an effort to essentially get that any overflow water away from the neighbor. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Right. It also looks like the terminal points are now 30
Feet from the wetlands, it's way to the back of the property for that overflow pipe.
Correct, yes.
Okay. The last question I think I have is on that back drainage system. I guess it's a two-part question. Is there any concern, because you did the pretty tight grading, that the water from that back infiltration will break out on the sides? And do you need, and the other part of it is, to avoid any concern, do you need to specify on the soil under that back infiltration, any specification to make sure that it has high infiltration, 2 feet down or more past the bottom of the chamber?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So we have spec'd over excavation in that area to elevation 120. So I put a note there. I know the plan is busy, so just wanted to highlight that. And then as far as breakout on the grading, we proposed a poly barrier that's been proposed below the porch so that there isn't a concern of it entering into the existing home. Obviously, the folks designing the waterproofing for the foundation will want to take some additional measures there. We've made some notes on that, and then we've also included a poly barrier right at this elevation 124. So that we don't see any breakout of infiltration coming out that side slope. But that's an excellent question.
Yeah, how far down does the poly barrier go? Out of curiosity.
Poly barrier we have down to elevation 119.
Really?
And that's, yes, yep. So that's to the seasonal high groundwater table.
Yeah, I am impressed with that design. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Yes, John.
So one other thing, just a question for the commission. Would you feel comfortable closing this hearing prior to seeing a design of the retaining wall? So the retaining wall isn't being designed by the project engineer, somebody else is designing it. Given its location, I would suggest that you want to see a detail of the wall.
Unless you can, when you build a wall, Indra, this is your area. Can you put up a performance spec on the wall that would essentially guarantee you're going to get what should be done? Or do you need to see the actual design?
Actually, the retaining wall is to retain the earth, to retain. So that's what we see, what material, how deep it is, how high the wall is. This is 3 feet high.
So you would say it's better to see the design? Or can you do it on a performance basis?
It can be, I don't think we need to see the design. It's 3 feet high, right? Am I correct?
I'm not sure.
Correct, yeah, it is 3 feet high.
Yeah, so I'm not too much concerned.
Because a lot of times they do a performance spec and say it must be X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. In the spec, it would be the material, what material it is. That's
Oh, I see.
No, nothing. And I'm not concerned about.
So for instance, for a 3-foot wall, would it require weep holes?
I don't think so, no.
No, it's unlikely, right? 4?
It's too small. 3 feet is really small.
Does it need to be done by a structural engineer? Usually it's not for 3
Well,
feet.
if you ask me, I would always prefer to design by a structural engineer, yes.
But if it's under 4 feet,
But if it's under 4 feet, it's
Under
not.
4 feet, so you really don't need it. And these days, these are very standard materials, the blocks, you can find out.
I see. Okay, good input, thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so now it's an open hearing. So does anyone in the audience like to have questions or comments? Please come up and Mr. Goel, he probably is going to sit there so he can talk in the microphone.
Oh, okay. I was going to move the mic, but we can just...
Or you can move the microphone if you'd like. Okay, so as before, we ask you to state your name for the record, where you live, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Hickey. We met a few weeks ago. I live at 10 Sarah Street, 62-year lifelong resident. I kind of don't know where to begin because I'm listening to everybody's comments and I'm agreeing with you. So please bear with me. It's funny, I do understand on both ends, like I feel like I'm getting double whammy because the infiltration system last meeting, we discussed expanding it and having it in the front to alleviate the water problems out in the wetlands. But my backyard in my left corner takes on water, even more now. It's exacerbated since the trees came down. And then the 2 houses on Beaverbrook, the gentlemen that were here last week, they're taking on more water now. So in some ways, having an infiltration system just in the front is kind of scary for me, but having one added in the back, I can see how that could be helpful. But at the end of the day, I just feel like I'm completely surrounded by water. And I feel like my first question for Mr., and I believe it's Dragani, I'd like to know, Mr. Dragani, did you take into account the absence of those 8 trees when you were figuring out how much stormwater drainage would go back into the wetlands for all your calculating and all your plans? Because it looks like the plans were done before the trees were taken down.
So that's an excellent question. So the way that the performance standards read at the state level and at the town level, that isn't currently accounted for. I do agree. I believe that the commission and yourself mentioned that there may be a bit of a gap in the way that that is calculated, but currently that is not accounted for. So excellent question.
Right, so if that's the case, then to me, the calculations for the amount of stormwater drainage would be flawed all the way across. For the French drain, for the infiltration system, the numbers would all be off. If the 8 trees, especially several of them that were monstrous. Those roots are gone, sucking up gallons and gallons and hundreds of gallons of water are gone. Then the whole plant is flooded. The whole plant is flawed.
Well, I will tell you that, in all honesty, there is no substitute for water that is taken up by large trees once they're taken down, and it takes years. So what they're trying to do is put in 40 plants, is it? I forget the number, but a large number of plants to help compensate for that. And then we have the additional 1,600 square feet of impervious surface, the runoff. We have a substantial oversized infiltration system, okay? Is it going to be enough? Water runs on the surface. Water is substantially eliminated running on the surface. Now, water does run slowly underground.
Right.
The reason why we infiltrate is because it essentially gets held up in the water underground, and so the standards require us to infiltrate. And so what we regulate is the water that is on the surface, and people that sue neighbors are suing for water being redirected on the surface. Water in the ground, if it's successfully infiltrated, usually it takes a while. It doesn't run like a pipe.
Right.
It takes a long time for it to get down to the wetland.
Right.
But obviously, I'm not going to kid you, water seeks the lowest level, and any amount of water is going to eventually end up there. But the intent is that with the timing of the storm, okay, it all comes down in a rush. You get a big storm. The water underground goes much, much, much slower before it ever gets to the back of the wetland, and theoretically, the storm has ended and the water has begun to recede, theoretically.
Right. So the infiltration system in the front yard, I was reading on the back of the stormwater report from Dugani, and he says here, one system, if all the rooftop runoff goes into one system, it would tax the system and reduce the life of the infiltration system. Adding another chamber, he says the entire rooftop should not be piped into the proposed stormwater system.
Which is why we have the additional infiltration.
We have an additional one now, right, but in a sense...
And I believe you expanded the front one as well.
The front one's expanded, there's one now in the back, but I mean, the runoff eventually goes out into the wetlands, am I correct? Like, there will be some runoff that eventually gets there. We had a 4-inch rainstorm this past year. We have global warming, climate's changing. We just had a 4-inch storm.
Eventually, the water makes its way to the 121 elevation level. Eventually, underground, okay? Much slower than if it's running on the surface or running in a pipe, certainly. Running in a pipe, it's almost immediate if it was, but if it's running on the surface of the yard from, say, a previous housing installation, the water runs fairly quickly on the surface and ends up in the wetlands.
Right, and unfortunately, the wetlands are, because the trees being gone, it's ponding more and more and more. So one way or the other, I'd rather have it in the back. You were referencing that because it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I'd rather have it in the back than coming into my house from on the front.
Right.
The 3-foot retaining wall, it's 3 feet?
Yes.
Okay. So my concern with the wall is, and to Ed's point a couple times also, I think there's going to be a 6-inch difference between the soil and the wall. There's going to be a pretty good slope there. And, I'm just thinking of every scenario. Like, I know if we, some years, like in 2015, we had quite a bit of snow. That snow would be like up and above, and then we get rain on top of that, and it'd be like a mountain of water melting right down toward my sunken-in driveway. And that's very concerning to me. I mean, for me, it would be an ugly eyesore, but I'd rather have like a 5-foot wall. But the pipe also, so is the French drain, the rocks or the drain, I think it's 130 feet it runs along the side. And Mr. Dugani, like, how far beyond the proposed porch does that go? The French drain?
That essentially ends at the end of the wall here. So it's right at the rear of the property in this location, if you can see my cursor.
And for the most part, it's not
regularly taking drainage because the drainage is being held differently. It's taking anything excess off of the, during the nice weather, it's taking just the 15 feet of runoff that might sink through it, I assume.
Right.
And of course, I hate to say it, but you're right about snow. Snow causes a lot of temporary puddling. When it begins to melt and you have a large storm, my yard is full of water puddles. It's just the way it is.
Right. It's the way it is, but the scenario, the building project was like just pushed to the max, to the limit. I'm not sure in terms of this with the DEP. Is this the report that was sent to the DEP before? Because from what I'm understanding, this was all done before the trees were taken down. So the numbers to me are flawed. Is the DEP aware of all the current numbers? The wetland markers I know have been moved closer to the property.
As he said, I don't believe the numbers take up account. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but they don't account when you do these drainage calculations, these flow calculations for the water taken up by trees.
Right, because that's groundwater.
That's groundwater.
And stormwater calculations are calculating stormwater. So, no, they don't. And yes, everything either went to DEP or all the fresh stuff is going to DEP.
Okay. And then the pipe, I hear the pipe is 6-inch pipe? Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
That is correct.
So I'm trying to understand, considering the scope of this project, are you able to get it, in terms of accommodation and depending on the type of weather we have, rain, snow, whatever, are there 12-inch pipes that can accommodate more than 6 inches?
There are 12-inch pipes. It's not something we commonly use in residential house lots. One of the reasons is because the piping is so shallow, being that that's an overflow pipe, it's at an elevation higher than the drainage system. So if we used a larger pipe, it would protrude out of the ground partially. So that 6-inch pipe is usually one of the largest we use on residential. A lot of times it's 4, but we've chosen 6 for this particular project.
Right, but you can't, I don't know, is there an 8-inch pipe, a 10-inch pipe? Is it different degrees or?
They do make 8-inch pipe. It's possible that would fit. It would be very close to the surface if it did.
Considering everything, infiltration systems, the grade, the wetlands, I would want.
Which pipe are we now talking about? The overflow pipe or the
Overflow pipe.
The overflow.
The
pipe?
overflow pipe.
There's really no reason for that to be any bigger.
Yeah,
It's just an overflow pipe.
Does the overflow pipe go up, it's above the French drain?
No.
It's below?
The overflow.
It's separate.
It's overflow pipe is if the front chamber is completely overwhelmed.
Right.
Okay? And there's no flow until there's at least over a 4-inch storm in 24 hours.
Right.
All right? So the flow is going to be I think it's going to be relatively small, given what we have been told.
Right.
And I don't design these things regularly, but I normally, for this type of an application, I normally don't see, I've always viewed a 6-inch pipe as a very large pipe.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So even though we had it, because we did have
They use them for water supplies, for
Right.
for
Right.
various things. That is a substantial pipe. It's not like an undersized pipe, is what I guess I'm trying to say to you.
So, because I know we did have a 4-inch storm this year, so that would still be okay with a 6-inch pipe?
In my opinion, also, I think it is okay. Just for the overflow 6-inch pipe for the residential.
And I should say Commissioner Deb is actually a registered engineer as well.
Okay.
Larry, can I just make a comment?
Please, Bill.
Okay. That 4-inch storm, in theory, the infiltration chambers can hold that amount of water. So even in that 4-inch storm, nothing would be flowing through the overflow pipe. It would have to be more than that. And then it would just the amount that was in excess of that would go down the pipe. And the French drain, correct me if I'm wrong here, the engineer, the French drain is a perforated pipe sealed at both ends, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So it's basically yet another storage chamber and infiltration chamber. So it's a third place to store water.
How big is the
Drain
French drain?
The French drain is 24 inches by 24 inches with a perforated pipe in the base of the French drain.
And looking at the plans here, it looks like it goes just
On the porch, which is still, it doesn't go really beyond my backyard where the grass area is. I mean, it's still within that area, and I didn't know like if it could go further out, but now it looks like the wetland mark has been moved closer, so it doesn't seem like it can go any further.
I think we'd be open. Yeah, I think we'd be open to that, though. I mean, if you'd like an extension here, I would be open to that if that's something that concerns you.
Could you blow it up and show us where, because it's very hard to see here, it's so small.
Sure, of course. Yeah, if you'd like to see an extension in this location, I'd be happy to do so. I certainly work for the developer here. I just want to put it on record. I don't make up numbers or do anything different based on who my client is. So I try to design these systems and properties as if I live next door. So I just want to express that.
I have a question regarding the French drain.
This is Sarah.
Sarah, is the purpose of a French drain to try and take up surface water that percolates down and goes into the French drain, or is it to try and take up groundwater that's getting to be too much? Because if it's the former, surface water, then I'm wondering how that would work in the case of snow, ice, and so forth that made the surface somewhat impervious. I know this has been somewhat discussed, but isn't that water just going to basically run off and do what it wants to do and not go down into the French drain and behave itself?
So let me can show some of the details here just to help out. 1 second. French drain here. So essentially the French drain, the ground level elevation that's proposed is here. So that's what's shown in red. And essentially what this does is if there's runoff coming on the surface, it's able to pick up that runoff and essentially put it into a void space and allow that water to percolate over time. If there is ice over this, you're absolutely right. They wouldn't be able to get into that system. Now, if I can just go back to plan view here for 1 second. All of the roof the roof runoff that's coming from the gutters is in a closed system, so that's closed piping. So in the event that there was, a large buildup of snow and ice on the side of the property here, all those systems are still in a closed pipe system that would essentially bypass that. And allow that water to go and percolate back into the ground.
Okay, I understand that. So it would just be the rain that would fall on the red area that could possibly run off because it can't get into the French drain. That
exactly.
The red rectangle you just had shown there. Okay,
yes,
so it's
correct.
not a huge amount of surface area. Is that your point, that you shouldn't worry about it because that's really only just that little area of land that the water, it's taking the rainwater that's not dealt with? So that's not a concern? Is that the point?
Yeah, I mean, it's just grass, right? So that area is not impervious. There's no pavement there. And also that wall will be proud by 6 inches. Could there be a situation where there's a large ice storm, that there's ice buildup on the side of the property? Absolutely. It could be a condition like that, but I don't see it to be a significant risk, but I can see, and I think it's a good comment. It's just, it's not something that we can capture, right? We would have to extend the elevation of that wall up a significant amount, and it would just
retaining wall Mr. Hickey referred to, yes.
It would look a little strange. So that would be the only concern, just from an aesthetic perspective.
Okay, all right. So
Do you have any other comments? Because I have one last comment.
Yeah, so are you, Commissioner Debbie, you confident with a 3-foot wall and a 6-inch differential between the top of the wall and the grade, or should it be higher? Should the wall be higher? Should the grade be lower somehow? Like,
Well, yeah, if there is snow, 3 feet snow or 2 feet snow, of course 6 inch will not hold. So how far you want to go? Do you think that, and how many times we get more than 6 inches?
I mean, but you're talking a small area with, you're not talking a wide area with snow. You're talking,
It's a very small area.
It's a relatively small area in width.
But what
so
you are
it's not
saying,
a
yeah,
lot.
if there is snow, 2 feet
And as I say,
snow,
everything is subsurface, so even with the snow on it, the drainage, all the pipes are
right,
underground.
right. I understand that. But to Ed's point as well, I think with the wall and the soil level 6 inches below, should the grade be brought down further than 6 inches versus bringing the wall up? Should the grade of the soil be brought down?
You're saying the land should be sloped
Yes.
to help retain
Should it be sloped more to help retain?
Let the engineer answer that if
We currently show the max grade there at 3 to 1. The reason why we do that is for the stability of the slope, and then the other is that it gets really hard to maintain that surface with like a lawnmower, for instance. So to increase that slope could make that slope less, stable, and so you may see some erosion there, and then there'd be a concern with just maintenance of that area. That may lead to overgrowth, weeds, and things like that because they can't properly maintain it.
Right, but I'm concerned about water coming.
Needs or maintaining a structure that, so that's not my concern at all. You know what my concerns are.
honestly, the normal grades that we see is usually 3 to 1 on all the projects. I have to tell you, the zoning, I just wanted to make a comment. A lot of thoughts are running around in my mind,
Me too.
and as I can tell. And I applaud you for showing so much concern, because it's your property. However, I will tell you, the zoning laws have been around since the 40s. That's what established that people, if they conform to the zoning, they can do what they want in the property. This is not something new. It's not us allowing it, first of all. And then, of course, they were amended in the early 80s and then in the late 80s, and they are what they are, and Burlington has chosen not to make changes to what the allowed setbacks are. But I have to tell you, I've been on the commission well over 30 years now, and this is a highly engineered project that I am reasonably impressed with, that if it works as being represented, then there should be no problem. Having said that, there's no guarantees, obviously, but it sounds like that it should work for you. And if it doesn't work, and we see water breaking out on the side of the property, and, and you're flooded, I will be not only surprised, I'll be very disappointed that that's happening.
Oh, I would be disappointed.
I mean, really, I'll be really shocked if that's happening. But this is just my opinion, and any of the commissioners can weigh in here. I think Bill already did. This is a highly engineered project, more so than we often see. Okay?
And I want to add, I'm also in the commission more than 25 years. And I have seen so many projects. This is oil engineered so far, what I have seen in my last 25 years.
Yeah, I just feel, I appreciate that. I just feel like when I was here last meeting, there was a contract with somebody in the wetlands area, and he wanted to build a porch or something. And you were setting up a lot of stipulations before he could even break ground. So you have the authority, anything that wetlands. This seems like the cart was put before the horse. I mean, unfortunately, all the trees were taken down, but all these engineering feats that are going on to hopefully ensure everything will be okay. All this should have been discussed before the foundation went in.
Of course, and this is partially after the fact filing.
Correct.
You're absolutely right.
Correct.
But our job here on the commission is to ensure that the work is done according to accepted engineering practices.
Right,
Okay? And we have insisted, and they have provided what I think is a very well-engineered project to account for getting the water underground and moving slowly to the back of your property, where the back of this property, where the
Right.
lowest level is. There's no guarantee you won't still have problems, but I don't know what else that could be done for what is called good engineering practice.
Well,
That's what we have.
Well, one thing that could be done is, first of all, a property of this scope in wetland areas should have never been allowed to begin with. But you're right, it wasn't done correctly. Number two, Mr. Dragani said himself that they didn't take into account the absence of the 8 trees. So to me, that skews all the numbers, and it's trying to be rectified as best it can be. So that's not good engineering. That is not good engineering. So again, I did have emails with Eileen, and I said, back and forth our email on March 26th, and I said, I need your assurances that going forward, the infiltration systems, the drainage, the French drain, the pipe, everything will be done to perfection. And her response to me was, we will stay on top of this project to make sure everything is done right.
And the reason is because the way we answer your concern is that we rely on representations of a licensed engineer, and then we rely on it being installed as it's designed, okay? And we ask for, so when certain structures are, oftentimes when certain crucial structures, stormwater structures are being installed, we ask for the licensed engineer to witness it so he can represent that it's been placed properly at the right elevations and so forth.
Right.
And I'm sure the engineer here has done that for other projects as well.
Yeah.
So,
So the process is the commission orders a permit, it's called an order of conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and it will have 50, 60 conditions in it about this project, including all the construction, inspections and all that. That's all in the permit, and there's a draft, there'll be a draft available, which you'll be able to see before the next meeting, presumably, if the commission's inclined to vote at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I know the pool's going to the other side now,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Pool.
that's
And that slope, which I've heard you say, like, that slope is still very high, so I'm hearing that the slope's coming down because it's coming right down toward my property.
yeah, well, it's what is shown on the plan, that where the steps come off the back of the pool, the grading beyond that point is down to pre-existing grading.
Yeah, so
So, and that's at 122 down to 121, which is where your wetland is.
Right.
So, we've done the best that we can here, and I don't know what else that we could require, other than wishing that, that certain things didn't happen, like the trees weren't taken down and so forth.
No, I understand, I appreciate that. And again, like, hopefully all will go well. I mean, as we know, this is all public record. So, it's on record. So, I mean, I hope that nothing happens to my property. Like I said, I've spent my whole life there. I probably will be there the rest of my life. But as I said before, and I will say it again, Mr. Dragani, again, this should have been taken into account when these plans were done. It's like the cart is after the horse. So I don't want to go there, but if I take on water, I will hold Dragani, Mr. Goll, and the commission all liable. So I want to make sure that's on the public record. It wasn't done correctly.
You're free to do whatever you...
I understand that. I understand that. It was not done correctly. Shame on a number of people in terms of what they did it and how they've done it. And they've created quite a mess here. Everybody's fingers are crossed, probably mine more than anybody else. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I won't be back.
And hopefully there's no issues. And
Oh, I hope.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
listen, thank you for participating in this.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wanted to make a comment on this project? We've had quite a few comments here.
No hands raised online.
What's that?
No hands raised online.
All right, any commissioners have anything further? Okay, can we safely say...
Just to reconfirm, Larry.
Yes.
We rely on the skills and training of professional engineers to say that the systems are going to work. And, this engineer's reputation is on the line when he does a project like this. And so hopefully it will function and be installed as designed, and it is up to that person to assure that that's the case.
And I'd certainly be happy to talk to you after public hearing. If you have any concerns, I'd be happy to run through the plans with you. Once again, I just want to express that I don't have any allegiance to any specific person. I have a license to do what I do, and that's what I represent. It's no different for any project. The system that we previously proposed still met the pre versus post standards for stormwater. And we just made that a bit more robust. But again, certainly happy to talk to you offline. If you want my contact information, just reach out and I can definitely link up with you. I'd be happy to discuss it with you.
Right. Why don't you send your contact information to the office if they don't have it?
Dan, are you actually talking to the neighbor?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay, he just left.
Okay.
Okay. I'll connect you if you want.
Do we have this engineer's information?
Yep,
We do,
we do.
okay. All right, I'd like to get a copy of it, not that I need to talk to him, I just would like to have who is doing stuff.
Yep.
All right, so I will say that the engineering on this project that you have gone, and the owner, of course, have gone out of their way to respond to each one of these concerns. And that should be noted for the record. All right.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. So could I have a motion?
So just to clarify, so you're looking for one plan change? Are you extending the French drain? Is that what you agreed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything other changes we need?
I think that's it, right?
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Could I have a motion to continue the hearing for 12 Sarah Street for DEP file number 122-704 to the May 23rd meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Bill?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob? Sarah?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The hearing for 12 Sarah Street is continued to the May 23rd, 2024 meeting of the commission.
And we'll have a draft decision ready for that meeting.
Right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, yeah. Good job.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, we have a continued public hearing, notice of intent, 101 Middlesex Turnpike. This is the Brixmore Property Group. They would like to raise the parking lot elevation. It's DEP file number 122-700. I guess we owe you a vote of thanks for being so patient to sit there and listen to all that.
Not a problem. I was able to go through some of my emails.
Oh, there you go.
Well, I got through a decent chunk.
Okay, where's the today?
Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself, please?
I'm-
And who you're with, and then you can summarize where you think we're at from your perspective.
Okay. So my name's Caroline Armstrong. I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates in representation for the Brixmore Property Group. We are located at 271 Waverly Oaks in Waltham, Massachusetts. And I'm here to go ahead and talk, give a little bit of an update, but basically ask to see if we can continue this meeting at the end of this, and then see if there are any other concerns. But,
Okay.
so, some quick updates, just let me know if I can go ahead.
Yeah, please,
Perfect.
please go.
Some of the updates that were, or concerns that had been brought up previously were just about making sure that we did actually meet to the 1-to-1. So in response to that, we did reconfigure some of the parking lot. We added in some additional landscaping, took away a few spaces to make sure that we got the 1-to-1 compensatory storage. So we are actually exceeding that now. And with this plan, we're also adding in some additional, we're doing a landscape plan and working on the rest of the filing. So we're hoping to actually do that by tomorrow, unless there are any other concerns that want to be addressed that are not already met here. So I can talk through a little bit more of this, but this is pretty much the same plan that you guys have seen. It just takes out a few parking spaces, adds in some additional landscaping, and then we are taking out one of the existing inlets to have landscaping instead.
And the reason you took out one of the parking spaces is?
To add some space where we could
Carve
do
out some
cut.
elevation?
We didn't have enough cut, so to provide that, we had to add more landscaping.
Right, okay. That's right, I thought the answer was. Okay. Okay, Eileen, you have some comments?
No, I think it's actually going to be John, because he's the
Yep.
most familiar with this one.
Yep, so we just got this plan today, as you can see. The top left corner is truncated where there were parking spaces. There's now proposed green space. So for those of you who went out on the site visit, there was a catch basin on the top left of the parking lot that was surcharging. So that is now off into the landscaped area, into the floodplain mitigation area where it'll be closed off. There'll be
Are they moving the grate? Are they moving the catch basin?
They're just putting I propose they're just
So-
putting a solid cover on it, right, on that one?
Yes, so I think I actually did forget to mention that, but you can see the existing manhole.
Can you blow it up a bit
Or-
so we can
yeah.
see it a little better?
Is that big enough? No, I'll go closer. We mean this guy, right?
So that's the existing inlet. Just below it, there's a manhole right there that's called out on the plan to raise that inlet to where the new grade is going to be, or raise the manhole rim to where the new grade is going to be, and then instead of a top cover like a normal manhole would have, it's going to have a grate on top instead. So it will basically act as a second inlet to replace that one that's getting removed.
So the purpose of that is, so obviously this parking lot would only have one catch basin if you eliminated the one that's now out in the landscaped mitigation area. And there's a raised island in there, so all the stormwater isn't going to be able to get into the catch basin on the right-hand side. So they're proposing to convert a drain manhole, put a grate on it, and basically have it function as a catch basin, which is an ideal. Then you now will have a catch basin to catch basin connection. They're pretty limited out here on what they can do between high groundwater and a lot of underground utilities and whatnot. So it's not an ideal situation as far as stormwater quality goes, but it sort of functions to drain their parking lot.
Will it be able to handle?
Pardon?
Will it be able to handle it, the rainwater, the stormwater?
Yes, so it would be sized to be the same size as the inlet that it previously was before.
So the bottom line is, at each one of the incremental elevations, 1 foot elevations, they're proposing to meet the amount of cut will slightly exceed the amount of fill at each one of those elevations. So they will meet the performance standards for bordering land subject to flooding.
So could we go back now to look at the flow of the water
Oh, I was just
through
showing
the
you
front,
cut
through the
and fill
front
table.
area there?
I'm not sure how thoroughly they've designed this. This was sort of a first, I don't know if you, how much engineering, well, I guess you've got plans ready for tomorrow, so okay, I guess maybe you have.
So I guess my first question would be, when you're talking about the flow of the water, are you talking about the flow of the water in the parking lot itself, or?
Flow of the water in the
In-
parking lot itself and coming up through the catch basin. You can go up there and point if you want, if it's easier to describe.
Oh, yeah, I can do that as well.
I know it's old fashioned, but it's
However, whatever works
Oh,
best.
you know what? I have a laser in my drawer. I'm going to bring it next time.
yeah, definitely bring a laser.
Start bringing it to these as well. But, so you can see the arrows that are right here. This is where the flow is supposed to be going. So it is pretty flat. It's not the most ideal. It's more than 0.5%. But because we're raising this whole parking lot, it's kind of the best that we can.
Was the parking lot flooding because of the surcharging through the grate?
Yes.
Okay,
I mean, there's multiple reasons, but that is certainly not helping.
right. I mean, so a lot of the water was just overflowing and filling up the parking lot.
Right.
Okay, so now what I'm trying to ask to describe to the commission is where the water is going now. Okay, show us the flow of the water. Once it comes up, it's still going to come up the grate?
No, so that's why it's raised. That's why the entire elevation is raised. It's raised to be 6 inches above what that water was already giving to. So the idea is that now it all has to continue moving through, because as we were talking before in the previous one, water goes to the
And where is the water coming from? That ravine that was there?
ravine.
The ravine. So that ravine will overflow, and now it's going to go in the brown area,
Yes.
and it's going to come around. And let's change the, I'd like to see the rest. I'd like to see the rest of it.
Oh, sorry, you want me to move it?
Now, I want to see the front of it.
Move out?
Yeah.
Sorry, zoom out.
Now,
Gotcha, okay.
raise it up a little. And so now it's going to go from right to left on the drawing, following the brown area, and come around and fill up.
So are you talking about when it rains? When
Yes.
it rains, the idea is that it will continue to go back into, before it wasn't working up to standards. So before it wasn't continuing to go all the way down because this area was low enough that it could just stay there and wasn't forced by gravity to keep going. Now it's being forced by gravity to keep going because this is higher than this. And
Right.
because of the
Okay, and so it's going to come, the water's going to flow which way? It's going to go,
So it flows into here, into like these two inlets that are proposed, or like one, both are existing, and then through this pipe that's here.
Raise the
and it's going to flow in front of the green area.
And then, yes, that is the existing basin that we're not touching at all, so that it can continue to work as it's been, and then flows through the outflow. So that existing spillway is where it keeps going.
Okay,
And then
okay.
into my-
That's what I thought it was, but I wanted to make sure that was still the intent.
So the brown is really not intended to be used except for like an extreme flood event, where that's why we're providing commits for storage, is that if, because it's in the flood spillway, it's providing the same amount of cut as we're proposing to fill, to make sure that the water is flowing.
Right. Okay, I think, all right, okay, that was helpful.
Perfect.
So John and Eileen, do you think we need, do you have any concerns about this at this point?
Well, not at this point. So we need all revised, the whole plan set needs to be revised. The NOI needs to be revised. Basically, the filing needs to be revised.
Okay. All right. Bill, do you have concerns about this? I mean, obviously, everyone's going to have concerns.
There's been a flooding problem here for a while now. Do you have any comments at this point?
Yeah, I got a couple. First, from day one, the very first obvious solution was to give up a couple of parking spaces. So I'm glad they came to their senses and realized that that was a necessity here. It may not be optimum for the function of their business, but it is certainly for the flow of water. And so now my other question is, there was a whole discussion that was supplied explaining why they qualified for an exemption from the WPA requirements. Is that now moot because of this?
I'm not sure what you're referencing. There was never an exemption.
Well, they claimed, they tried to sort of
Claim that they didn't really have to meet the 100, but they did. Or sorry, the one-to-one. But DEP told them, yes, you do.
But now they are meeting it.
But they are.
So now that whole discussion is not moot. I mean, it is moot. I mean, it's
Correct.
okay. No, I had spent so much time reading it and trying to understand it versus the regulations, but this is a better solution. I think this is moving in the right direction.
It really didn't, the argument didn't make any sense. And
that's what my point exactly.
I actually had a conversation with the engineer, Kevin Letty, and the people from DEP, and they told them the same thing, that you have to meet the one-to-one.
Right, okay, good, because I was going to totally disagree with the request for an exemption. Okay, that is, I think, a positive step.
Okay. Now, does anyone on the commission, I have something I want to bring up, but I want to see, does anyone on the commission have any issues they'd like to talk about on this?
No, but I did say that that's what they should do a year ago.
Yeah, okay.
How many parking spots did you have to give up to make your flood compensatory?
A total of 4. So, I mean, it's 5 spaces were taken away, and then some were converted to compact.
All right, anybody on the left, any
So it
comments?
ends up being 4.
All right, so here is my question. I don't know if it's a real issue or not. The water level in Vine Brook is somehow connected either underground or some way, I think achieves the same level of the water where the pond is, right? Isn't it about the same level? The Vine Brook is at about the same level as the pond?
Are you talking about where the flooding, or where there's?
No, right now, in the green area, the elevations of water are the same as in Vine Brook? In that area, that wetland area and back?
I mean, we haven't touched that because it's a sensitive area, but based off of field visits and things like that, it's
Looks
similar.
about the same, right?
Right.
Okay, given that, now you're digging another trench, like another pond in front of the existing pond. Why, you probably know what I'm going to ask, why would the water level not infiltrate through the little embankment, the 124 elevation, and basically go through the soil there and seek the same level? And now everything's at the same level, and that stuff is really not available for conducting flow. It's just going to, in other words, water is going to seek its own level, and I'm just wondering, with a little narrow berm between them, is the new area you're carving out in brown going to equal the same water level as the green, is the same water level as the blue, and the whole thing is not going to work? I'm not sure that's a real question or not. I'm not sure if I...
Is that just voicing a concern or asking a question if it's going to be at the same level as the?
Well, you can take it as a question if you, I suppose, if you have an answer.
I mean, I can provide some additional information. The intention is because it's all going, the rainwater that lands on this like brown area, is supposed to infiltrate into the ground. The idea in this design is that the rainwater that falls onto the asphalt that cannot infiltrate will go into the inlets as they're designed to do from the original, and this will actually make that work. And then from the inlets go into the pipe, and then into the existing pipe, and then into the basin, and then because of that spillway into Vine Brook, will go into Vine Brook and continue on its merry way.
So,
in extreme events,
yeah,
this could become an area where it's additional ponding, but the point of doing the compensatory one-to-one storage is for that exact reason.
so to prevent a hydraulic connection between the green area and the brown area underground, so it's always available, should that berm where you're carving out be lined or something to prevent water from infiltrating through it? I don't even know if it's a good idea. You're the engineer.
If you're just talking about putting something to line, I mean, you intentionally want it to.
Well, I want it to infiltrate, to line the slope so the water is not going from the green area, seeping through into the blue area and filling it up. In other
Well, it
words,
should go from the green area into the blue area.
well, the green area, I understand. I'm talking about from the green area to the brown area. I got my color, I'm colorblind, I guess.
I mean, part of the reason, it does have hills and stuff like that. It is a possibility. The idea is not that that's supposed to happen, but it is supposed to fix the flooding or help at the very least mitigate the flooding that is already happening. It's more like this is a difficult situation all around, and this is the closest that we've been able to get to help.
I know you're trying. I'm not saying you're not trying. Bill?
You also don't want to prevent it from infiltrating.
Yeah.
Do you understand
what I'm trying to say? And if you think it has no merit, then I think that's fine. But if that berm is fairly pervious, then the water in the green at whatever level is going to seep through to the new dugout area, and it's just going to fill up and become a part of a pond.
I don't see that. To me, the new dugout area, the new basin, is going to fill up in extreme flooding events to hold that water that normally would have been in the parking lot area, but now it's compensated by putting it in there. And then as the flood recedes, it will recede into the ground. It's same as
You don't think there'd be a hydraulic connection going from
Underground there will be, sure.
And it's gonna, I'm just wondering if it's just gonna seek the same level in the Brown area and just be filled with water constantly.
Well, so, real quick, it is a little bit difficult to see just because the green is taking precedence, but there are existing contours in the existing basin that are contours that have been surveyed that show like 120-ish is the lowest. This is all like 124. The lowest is still in this existing basin.
I see. Oh, okay, so the elevation in the carved out area is what down as how low?
Yeah, the area in the green is still the lowest of this area here.
Okay, and
This is still lower than it existing, but it's not.
So what's the elevation in the Brown area in front there?
New basin.
In the new basin, what's the elevation?
Around 124 is like the lowest, but like 120.
Even in front of the green area?
Yes, so they have these numbers that say like 124, and where those are calling out, those are the lines of, at that space, it is 124.
Great, thank you for putting up with that question. I think I think Bill is correct. It's probably not a concern.
Was there anything else?
I'll stop talking. I'm done. Anyone else? All right, is there anyone in the audience for this? No. Anyone online for this? All right, so John and Eileen, are we thinking that we can approve this so they can get their project started at the next meeting?
Quite possibly, if we get all the information in time.
Can you do that for the May 23rd meeting and a few days before?
Actually, they said they were going to try to get it to us tomorrow, so.
Yeah, so by tomorrow at noon, that's what we're
Oh, that's plenty of time.
shooting for.
Okay, all right. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing on 101 Middlesex Turnpike for the Bricksmere Property Group, DEP file number 122-700, to the May 23rd meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission.
So moved, Bill.
Second. Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 600. This hearing is continued to May 23rd.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much for all your help on this. Okay, next on the agenda is planning board comments.
So the planning board has this project as a minor engineering change, actually. They also have 155, so we'll fill them in on those two projects. 155 Middlesex as well.
Okay, so you'll write comments, you folks? All right. Subcommittee staff reports, updates on anything? Anyone?
No.
Other business? Anyone have other business?
I do, but I'll try and be swift. I made a site visit today with Maureen Harold and with the landscaper at 127 Bedford Street. Do you guys remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring it up.
Okay, so we went out partly because, we went out because it looked like it wasn't really stable. The neighbor next door had been complaining that there's still water getting under the fence and going into her property. She thought the trenches hadn't been installed at all. We went out, the trenches were installed. They did put a couple of inches of loam over the top too. By the time they got around to loaming and seeding late last fall, it didn't really take very well, and there's been some movement of the soil. So there's rilling and there's movement of the soil down. It's partially filling the rain garden that was designed there. The trenches are not functioning properly. So what we all agreed to do, me and Maureen and Hyro agreed, is that he was going to pull off the soil up from the top of the trenches. We'll check the trenches, see if they need to be reinstalled or just beefed up. He's going to remove the sediment from the rain garden and stabilize the soil both sort of on that slope and directly under the wall. So I do have pictures, but I do want to keep it quick. So the issue that I have before you is that they extended their wetland permit back in maybe August for 6 months, thinking that they would get this done by February. They didn't. Their wetland permit has expired. So what we're proposing to do is issue an enforcement order as kind of the swiftest way to move this along, asking them to get all this work done by the end of June and actually finish it. So John has signed it. So just, I just wanted to give that to you to think about, and if you're okay with it, we can ratify it next time.
Does it need the commission signatures to?
Or you could just vote to ratify.
Okay. So should we have it on the agenda before we vote it?
It's up to you.
Any problem with doing it now?
No, we'll let the neighbors know.
It's the neighbors is the issue.
Yeah,
It would be,
Putting it on agenda lets people know, but we can certainly send a copy of the enforcement order to the neighbors who are concerned.
right.
It's just going to generate questions on the part of the neighbors, though.
It's all right.
It will no matter what, so yeah. But
All right. Well, I think it will probably play well when you said there's more that needed to be done and it has to be corrected, and we issued an enforcement order to do it. That should actually play pretty well.
Right.
All right, could I have
They can always commit citizens time, they can commit citizens time if they have further questions.
Right.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't think to share it. If you want, I
No,
can
that's
share.
fine, that's
Okay.
fine.
That would take longer.
Could I have a motion to issue an enforcement order for our remaining work for the 127 Bedford Street property? And is there anything, nothing else is needed in the motion? All right. Second?
Second.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Ed? And I vote yes. By a vote of 6-0, an enforcement order has been authorized for 127 Bedford Street. Okay, is there anything further? All right, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Do you want him?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Sarah? Ed?
Yes.
And I vote yes. This meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission is adjourned. Good evening, everyone.